Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 10th edition of the Alabama Crimson Tide Live call-in show from yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and my partner in crime, Jeffrey, and Only Talk Sports, where we take your calls on the Alabama Crimson Tide and the latest going on with them. We'll be discussing quite a little bit about the ReliaQuest Bowl, Jalen Milroe playing in it, the 2025 SEC schedule, the transfer portal in and outs, and much, much more. Let me tell you something, folks. It's going to be a wild ride. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Doing all right, Jackson. Definitely, a little disappointed with Alabama not making the playoffs, even though I was definitely, for the last couple weeks saying they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. But with all the upsets, it just seemed like the stars were aligning that they were going to get in. And Alabama still, just that one more domino needed to happen. SMU needed to win or get blown out. They didn't, so Alabama did not get in. But you know what? Our team did it to themselves. The Crimson Tide losing by 21 at Oklahoma is why they didn't get in. And now we turn the focus away from that to, like you said, a bowl game with the Michigan Wolverines, which on paper is an interesting revenge. Game. But, a very interesting game there. I mean, I think that Alabama obviously, was a better team than Michigan this season, but how motivated will Alabama be? We know that when Nick Saban was the coach, they went and played Kansas State in that bowl game when they missed the playoffs and absolutely annihilated them. But can Kalen DeBoer get the same effort and energy from Alabama to beat Michigan, or will you get another Oklahoma performance? So it's definitely going to be interesting. Can't wait to talk about that and more, but definitely excited to hear your guys' thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide tonight, because like you said, there's a lot to talk about.
Well, it's gonna be interesting to see what goes on with Alabama, Michigan. I mean, we get a shot at revenge on New Year's Eve. Like, how funny is it that we're starting off? We started off the whole year of 2024 with a matchup against Michigan and the granddaddy of them all. Then we get a shot at revenge on New Year's Eve. How funny is that?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't really think anybody was necessarily expecting both Bama and Michigan to be rematching in a game at the end of the season this year like last year and it not be in the playoffs. I think most people would have probably thought it'd been a better chance Bama and Michigan would have faced each other again if they did in the playoffs. I mean, Michigan is not as surprising that they didn't make the playoffs than Bama, because Michigan, we knew they had quarterback problems, but with their talent, a lot of people thought they could still maybe go 10-2 or whatever like that and have a shot at the playoffs. But Alabama, most people thought that Bama would just get into the playoffs by default. Like, well, it's a 12-team playoff now. Even if Bama's worse than with Saban, which they were this year, but still they were going to get in. Both didn't get in. So now they're both playing each other again, and you went from national championship, stakes on the line type deal last year to now it's just a random bowl game, which, I mean, for a program like if this was like an Indiana or a Vanderbilt most years, something like that, it'd be great. But for these programs, especially for Bama, no one cares about the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Well, we do.
We do, but you know how most fans are. We're not most fans, though.
Well, there's nothing wrong with not being like most people, because, I mean, sometimes it's good to be like most people, but sometimes it's not. And we got our first caller of the night tonight. We got Will N.D., a friend of the Voice of College Football. He co-hosted the Notre Dame, Indiana call-in show last night with our very own Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports. And it was a wild ride. I can tell you that right now.
What's up, guys? Just like I'm feeling, so Michigan, they played in this game, right, in 1987. I think it was the Hall of Fame Bowl, then the Outback Bowl, now ReliaQuest Bowl, right?
What a downgrade in the name. I know that's been said a million times, but the Outback Bowl, like you said, Hall of Fame Bowl, those were way better. And now the ReliaQuest Bowl, that is awful. That is really bad.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I feel like if you're Alabama, you have to feel good about this. With Milroe's gonna play, and Michigan, like, they're gonna have Johnson and the two D linemen opt out, and Edwards probably opt out too. So Bama's got to be feeling pretty good about their chances with Milroe in and those guys out.
Yeah, I agree with you, Will. I mean, I just think the only way, Bama would and it probably lose this game is it's an effort deal. Like, it will Bama, even with Milroe playing and all that, which is fantastic. I'm glad. But will they give an Oklahoma effort again? I wouldn't even be concerned with that in most circumstances, even with the Vandy loss. If you just had the Vandy loss and the Tennessee loss, I would probably be looking at this game and I'm like, yeah, Bama most likely will win. They're just a more talented team. They'll get it done. But I am concerned with Alabama in this game because of the amount of times this season that we have seen the effort level for Bama not be there. And that Oklahoma game was so egregious that I think there is a chance they could lose to Michigan. I think I'm not making a pick on it because, we're not even close to, prediction time for that game. But most likely Alabama will win. I think most people, will think that they're going to win. But if their effort's poor, then they could lose. And that's a shame because Bama's always been a team in the past with Saban that had effort. And this year it's just been so inconsistent that you just never know.
And do you guys do you think that Simpson could get some time in the game, or do you think it'll just be Milroe?
If Milroe is playing in this game and the game's competitive, no. If Alabama blows them out like they blew out Kansas State, then yes. But with it being Milroe's last game, and he's probably also looking at that, maybe if he has a good performance in this game, it could boost his draft stock because his draft stock's actually gone down. Since that Georgia win, he was flirting with the first round. Now he's like in the third, fourth, whatever. So I think that it's not going to be like Notre Dame when Sam Hartman gets benched, and then Milroe's going to play. And if the game is any competitive at all, even it's through the fourth quarter, then Milroe is playing the whole time. You're not going to see Simpson unless.
Do you guys definitely think he's going to the draft, or do you think maybe he could go to the portal?
I thought Milroe was out of eligibility. He does have another year left?
I thought he did. Maybe not. I could be wrong.
I keep getting confused on
You would probably know more than me, but.
Well, I know Jackson would know for sure. You know Jackson?
Well, if he's in the NFL draft, which he likely will be, it's not going to be very high.
I'm just saying, does he have another year of eligibility left?
No.
No, I didn't think he did. Because, yeah, he could come back, but he wouldn't hit the portal. He would not hit the portal if he had another year. I don't think he would. Because Bama has nobody that would pass him. I know people are saying Sayin, and all that, but no, I don't even see him passing Milroe next year if he came back. But yeah, I think he's done. He doesn't have any more time. We've gotten accustomed to these guys playing for 7 and 8 seasons now that you just never know anymore if someone's truly out of eligibility. Like McNamara, these guys just never.
Oh yeah.
These guys just never. They don't leave anymore. Yeah, like Sports Talk also says, appreciate you for being here. Why would Milroe leave Bama? Yeah, he would be insane to leave. I mean, where else? Like who? Yeah, the only way it would make sense for Milroe to leave is to go to an offense that utilizes quarterback run better than what DeBoer's offense has done, but it's going to be at a program that's worse than Bama, so it's not going to improve his draft stock. I mean, that's why Riley Leonard's not a first-round draft pick. You have to be able to showcase your passing ability, and if Milroe went to another school that utilized the run more, he would probably hurt his draft stock even further because then he'd be a year older, and he hasn't showcased anything to improve at the things that he hasn't really gotten better at. So that would be insane to leave. He wouldn't leave, but I don't know.
Oh, stand corrected. The Godfather, the ACC says Milroe has 1 year of eligibility. Thank you for the correction, Godfather.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
1 year of eligibility after the 2024 season, but he probably just punched his ticket to the pros. Front offices will come calling in droves during the 2025 NFL draft.
Well, I mean, he did punch his ticket earlier in the year, you thought. For sure then, because after that Georgia game, he was in the first round. Most draft models had him as a first-round pick, but since that game, his draft stock has collapsed. it's gotten a lot worse.
I mean, I was
He's
just saying
probably
just
going to
because
be hurt
I
for
felt
now.
like Bo Nix played forever, and he was still a first round pick. That's why I was saying maybe
Well,
Milrow.
I mean, that is true, Will. You are right about that. I mean, I'm just so used to, like, with basketball where it's like, oh, if a guy's old, you can't draft him high. I mean, football's not as bad with that, but there is a little bit of an age factor where they're like, oh, this dude's like 25. Like, should we draft him high? I don't know. You're right, Will, on that with Bo Nix. I don't know. I mean, Mike G, appreciate you for stopping by. Says, honestly, hope Milrow goes. Time for a QB change. The thing is, though, is that Bama's going to have to make sure their next quarterback's better than Milrow, or at least on the same level as Milrow, or they're going to be even worse next year. That Bama doesn't have that significant advantage in talent that they used to have now that NIL is a thing. So if they don't have at least a decent quarterback, they could have some problems.
Well, quarterback situation seems to be a little better next year because we'll be seeing who we're going to rely on between Keelan Russell and Ty Simpson.
Well, you could also have Carson Beck, as JT said.
No. Oh God, no. No.
That's a big fat no. I mean, I had a whole conversation about Georgia's program yesterday. I don't even want to get into that again.
Oh yeah. And for more on that, you could check out the Notre Dame Indiana call-in show from last night. It was a wild ride, and we can get our buddy Jeffrey close to 1,000 subs on the Indiana channel. Let's get him there.
Appreciate it, Jackson. Absolutely. On Alabama's quarterback situation, possibly being okay, but I still think they're going to probably have to bring in a transfer. I mean, there's still so much time. I mean, there's going to be more guys that enter the portal. Also says you can have Miller Moss. I don't know. The thing is that it could work, I guess, because DeBoer, usually has had offenses where the quarterback's been more pass oriented, but I don't know if Miller. I mean, I don't know how good he is. I mean, he did good against Louisville in the bowl game, but this season at USC wasn't very good. But I think USC's offense is just bad, so I don't know.
Maybe we can take Preston Stone. I mean, can't beat him, take him.
There's some guys available. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, you got Caden Salter, you got Miller Moss, Mendoza at Cal. I mean, I don't think Bama would want some of those guys, though.
That's true. And Godfather says, I am feeling Milrow comes back unless he gets first round or second round money if he's not back. And Jada says, sorry, gang, I got scared, had to hang. Hey, man, the link's always there if you want to come back in, man. Like,
absolutely. Nothing to be afraid of. We don't bite.
No, we don't bite. We don't bite, do we, Will?
No.
I didn't think we did.
I mean, maybe a little nibble, but not a bite.
Yeah, sure. Get back to Godfather's point. I mean, it's true that he could come back, I guess. I mean, I had it in my mindset that he was done, like, out of eligibility. Why would he transfer? Honestly, I mean, why would he transfer? I'm not saying you're wrong, Mike G, and because someone else said it earlier. You could absolutely be right, but I would be stunned if he left. I don't get that, honestly. I wouldn't do it. Why would you leave Alabama? He's not going to lose the job. This isn't a Jalen Hurts Tua thing. You know what I'm saying? This is not.
He might want a better offensive line.
Well, Mike G saying the Jalen Hurts route, but where would he go?
Maybe USC? I don't know.
I mean, the reason Jalen Hurts left, Mike G, is because he got benched, right? He wasn't playing. Milrow's not getting benched. He's not. There's not one. I mean, unless I'm wrong. I mean, have I really studied Bama's backups? Not. I can't say that I really have. But I mean, they none of them have done anything. You don't. I mean,
maybe Ohio
talking about them.
On them.
What'd you say, Will?
Maybe Ohio State. I don't know. I was just throwing names out of teams that would want a quarterback.
Mike G says, I wouldn't be stunned if anybody transferred. I mean,
We
fair.
have had some transfers as of
Well,
late.
I'm
everybody
sorry, I've
does
been breaking
now.
up. I said maybe Ohio State
Okay.
for him.
But Mike G said I wouldn't be sending anybody transfer. That is fair. It is fair. I get that because everybody is losing players. Like even like Bama used to never lose players. Everybody's losing players. So I get that. You're not going to be able to keep guys at the rate you used to anymore. Players are going to bolt because the portal's always there. If something happens they don't like or whatever, they will. I just don't see Jalen Milroe going to another school unless there is pressure for him to get benched. And this season, I mean, there's been no talk of him getting benched. So to me, it's either draft or he comes back. I mean, it's funny that it's funny how perception changes though, because all season long, everybody's like draft. He's going to the draft. Now we're saying that, oh, he might come back because his draft stock's fallen. And then now people are saying he's going to transfer. I mean, honestly, we're just throwing, nails at the wall or whatever, hoping something will stick or however the phrase goes. I mean, we have no idea what he's going to do. Milroe leaving would just flabbergast me. I guess that would be a better word than stunned. It would flabbergast me because I don't get it. I wouldn't understand it. It really, honestly, wouldn't be a good decision in my opinion. I mean, again, Hurts made sense. He was benched. He had to leave, or he was never going to be an NFL guy. You can't prove anything when you're on the bench. But Milroe's starting, and he's not going to get benched. So I don't know.
All right, boys. I'm gonna hit the sack here.
All right,
It was
man.
fun chatting with you guys.
I appreciate you
fun as
coming
always,
on, Will.
yeah. Fun as
If
always.
he did go to Ohio State, Will, that would be crazy. That would break the internet.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing you, good buddy. And we got our next caller, Sean Garner, another friend of the Voice of College Football. How you doing tonight, man?
Oh, not too bad, gentlemen. Conclusion of excellent college football season here. I did want to point out how funny it would be if Milroe went to Ohio State, but there is no chance of that happening.
No.
Ohio State has Alabama's old next QB in waiting, and Julian Saying. They're waiting. He was the number one. He was at Bama for a hot minute before Saban retired.
Wait, Saying left because I said him earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, I was wrong on that. Yeah, it's hard to remember. These guys are flipping and flopping everywhere.
Yeah,
so Saying's gone. So that's why Jackson said Simpson, and then you said Keelan Russell. Yeah, because they had Saying. I remember that. So okay. Well, he's gone. Milroe going to Ohio State, that would just be hilarious. It really would. That would never happen. Do you think Milroe goes to the draft or stays or what? What do you think, Sean? Because I don't think.
Are we sure what his eligibility status is?
Everybody's saying he has a year left. I thought he didn't, but he does.
Okay, yeah, well. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to the draft because I think there's a chance he could go relatively high. There, he's got the tool. I mean, he's got enormous tools, enormous upside.
Well, I mean, it probably would make sense for him to go to the draft in the first place because this is not the best quarterback class ever. There's a lot of quarterbacks that could get drafted this year, but there's not a lot of clear-cut favorites to go early like last year where there was 4 or 5 guys in the top 10. This year, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. There's 15 quarterbacks that could get drafted in the top 3 rounds. We just don't know who. It's just they're all kind of mid. So
it's like Shadur and Cam Ward are battling it out for the first and second spot. They'll probably both be like top 10.
But then you got a bunch of ones like Milroe and Will Howard and Riley Leonard and all that are just like,
Gabriel.
They could get drafted in the 3rd round or 2nd round, or they could get drafted in the 7th. We have no idea where they're going to go. That's the thing. We have a bunch of guys like that. And I think in a competition between guys like that, Milroe would probably win because he's more athletic.
Well, yeah, he's got a big arm, and
he can throw.
he can
He's
throw,
like Anthony Richardson basically, except that he's not as big. He's basically the same. He can run all over the field like Richardson, and he can throw the ball 90 yards down the field like Richardson. It's just the accuracy is not always there. I think Milroe's actually a better passer than Richardson. Maybe now I will say Richardson has improved in the NFL, but when they got drafted, relative to when they got drafted, if Milroe goes right now, I think Milroe's a better passer right now than Richardson was before he got drafted. But Richardson got drafted in the top 5 because he was like massive and could, whatever. Milroe just isn't that big, but I think Milroe has all the tools. He just
he's built like a linebacker though. Like he is really, really sturdy. He's a really well built guy. He's just I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to be one of those guys. I'd be like scared to death if I was a fan of an NFL team. I learned our starting quarterback was Jalen Milroe. Next year, like I just think he's a ways away from being able to compete to play at that level. But the draft is all about potential. It's all about upside, and like if you've seen like the best, that's why they care a lot more usually about like when you see the best of guys like this versus like they're not the most consistent. Maybe they look like hoops sometimes, but. You can't fake what you've seen Milroe do at times. Like he can play elite football, and if you see a guy that can do something like that, then they're going to weight that really heavily. So I don't know. I really wouldn't be surprised to see him be a first round pick. I wouldn't. I think he has a better chance of being a first round pick than Quinn Ewers does. To be honest,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, the one thing Milroe has too that Ewers doesn't is Milroe is a lot more injury free than Ewers. Ewers' injuries have hurt him. He's out all the time. He's not in consistently. Caleb Taylor makes an interesting point. Milroe's problem has always been when defenses stab the box, take his legs away from him, hit him a few times, he gets rattled, makes mistakes, can't read the defense and see the field. Yeah, I mean, like LSU, that LSU game, Milroe was able to just run all over the field, and he was insanely great. But then in some of the other games they've played, especially Oklahoma, like he could not run in the game. And then he was throwing picks left and right. It's just he's got to figure out how to, when the run game isn't there, to be able to complete passes, sometimes not the bombs to Ron Williams and the previous receivers they've had down the field. Can you just like complete the 5-yard pass? Can you complete the 10-yard pass? And like I said, I think he can throw those better than Richardson, but the problem is that once he makes a mistake, or like Caleb said, gets hit a few times, he dramatically gets worse. It's not a deal where like he makes one mistake and then he shakes it off and plays better the rest of the game. No, he just kind of falls apart.
Yeah, it feels like every game's all or nothing with them. Like he's either
A+ or D.
D. Yeah, it's not like and I mean it's absolutely, and that's not what you want in an NFL quarterback. But I don't know. I think he's probably off to the draft. I think it would serve him well to come back another year, to be honest. Play another year, in Kalen DeBoer's system. I think he needs game reps. He needs more action. He needs to develop more of a complete game as a passer. It's everything with him. He's got a great bomb, great deep ball, but almost everything else needs tons and tons of work. He's not a mechanically, fundamentally sound quarterback at all. So you see a lot of these very simple throws just sail on him because his base as a thrower, his feet and his hips aren't right all that often. So Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so I mean, like he's a long way away from being a finished product. So I mean, I think he should come back if that's an option for him this
Absolutely. I
year.
mean,
And I
I
think
can definitely agree with that. I mean, to your point, I remember one play, and Jackson will remember it too, but it was in that Tennessee game where Milroe just flat out missed a wide open Ron Williams. And if that pass is complete, we don't know what's happening. Like, Ron Williams is probably gone, and Alabama wins the game. And even with the losses to Vandy and Oklahoma, Bama would be in the playoff. That one play, that one just wide open pass that like anybody can make. Quinn Ewers can make that throw. Curtis Rourke can make that throw. Will Howard would make that throw. I mean, I don't even know, honestly. I don't even know what Milroe, like just what went wrong there. I don't know because he wasn't even pressured. I mean, yeah, it was on the road in a loud environment, but it was just a flat out missed throw, and he missed it badly. It's not like he barely missed it; he missed it badly. And Williams was wide open. It's just stuff like that. If Milroe did not have those mistakes, then he'd be a first round draft pick for sure.
Yeah. All right, on to talking about the playoffs. Guys, I might have been like, I felt like I was like the one on an island defending Bama online this week, defending Bama's case to get into the playoffs. I mean, I know that losing to Oklahoma and Vandy's really, really bad for your resume, but they have the best win according to the seating committee in the country. They played one of the toughest schedules during the season. I'm sorry, like what SMU playing as lousy of a schedule as they did. First off, no one is making this point here. It's really, really absurd that they seeded SMU ahead of Clemson because Clemson lost 2 games because they scheduled two SEC teams in the non-conference. They played Georgia State and South Carolina State instead of Georgia and South Carolina. They're 11-1, and like it's a really easy case. Like it's just nothing. The committee sent so many bad messages with how
That's why it's not worth scheduling competitive non-conference games. It's dumb. It makes absolutely no sense.
The committee could change. The committee could change that. Like they could send a message that say, "Hey, we're really going to reward you, and we're not going to punish you if you lose those games too much. But we're really going to reward you if you win it." And it's completely the opposite now. The attack they take.
Yeah, because I mean, to your point, we would have had like Clemson, Penn State instead of Penn State, SMU, and we probably have had Texas, SMU as a playoff game. Because imagine the storylines for Texas, SMU. Well, it'd be the first time since 1995, the last time that they were both in the Southwest Conference together. I mean, that would be a huge story right there.
SMU doesn't do anything for anybody to be in the playoffs. The only reason people were glad SMU got in, it was either people that hate Bama and didn't want them in, or people that don't, think SMU, is good enough of a team, that they should have been there. And that, the SEC, all that kind of stuff. They're the only people that wanted SMU in. Because otherwise, like, everybody understands that Bama's better. I mean, SMU is a big dog against Penn State. If Bama was in that game, Bama and Penn State would almost be an even spread. Penn State would be favored by a hair, but it would be close. Like, it's just, I mean, SMU's not the better football team. No. Like, I even told that with DeReal last night. It's not about who's better. Right, because we know Bama's better than SMU. We know that Bama and all that better than Indiana.
I'll be honest. I don't really know that. Like Bama, SMU, if they played, I feel like that's a competitive game that SMU could win. I think Bama's a better team, but I don't like.
See, that's the thing. I'm
not saying my life.
When I'm talking about better team, I'm talking about based on talent, not how they've been playing. Because Clemson is the more talented team than SMU. SMU still almost won the game. So yeah, if SMU played Bama, yeah, SMU could beat Bama if Bama played bad or if SMU played extremely well. But based off talent, Alabama is way better than SMU. It's not even close, and that's what people are saying. It's kind of like people saying, like Ohio State or even Oregon or Texas and Georgia, like those teams are significantly more talented than Arizona State and SMU and Indiana. They just are. They just are. They have way more talent, and people are saying that those teams should have been seated at the top. Like Arizona State and Boise State should not have those buys. That's how dumb the system is, because those teams aren't as good. They weren't even ranked that high. But that's the way that the committee or in the way that they put the playoff system together. But it is broken because, I mean, the teams are seeded all out of order. I mean, it is based on where that they should be if you're going off of who's better. But, and again, when I go off who's better, I'm talking about their talent. But good, talented teams can lose if they have bad coaches or the players just don't play well. But, I mean, SMU and Alabama, it's not a debate on who's a better team. It's just, did Bama deserve to be in? And I don't think that they really did with those two bad losses, but they still were a better team than SMU on paper.
But I also just think their resume, their quality of work was better. I mean, SMU
beat Louisville,
an absolute crap. I mean, like just a joke of a schedule.
Their best wins over Louisville.
It got worse after they played SMU.
They beat Duke. Yeah, okay. Duke's the worst 9-3 team in college football, and SMU turned the ball over 8 times in that game and still won. 8 times. That's not a typo, by the way. SMU turned the ball over 8 times, and they still beat Duke.
Is that a record? Is that the most times a team has ever turned the ball over and won a game?
It might be. Well, I know in the Duke, was it Miami? Was it? Okay, wait a minute. Was it like Miami, Middle Tennessee State, or Duke, Middle Tennessee? It was a couple years ago. It was an ACC game. There was like 9 turnovers in a game. But that team lost, though. It was like, I think it might have been Miami. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, SMU was basically the feel-good story, the better PR story. Like, I think
Well, they also were trying to justify conference championships, too. I mean, you talk about, even Nick Saban said it. If they didn't want SMU in the playoff, they should have never been ranked 8th. In the first place. Them being ranked 8th gave them a chance, quote unquote, to still get in the playoffs with a loss, a close loss. If they had been ranked 12th in that game going against Clemson and then lost, they're not in, but they were ranked 8th. It put them in that situation where, like, okay, do we put them in? Because people keep saying the conference championship games, if you don't put SMU in, it doesn't matter. The loser of the Big 12 championship's not in. So why did that matter? You see, when you look at it that way, it doesn't make any sense with that argument. And I don't know.
And there's like a few posts of people say, well, if SMU loses that and they don't make it to the playoffs, well, then we shouldn't just have an ACC title game. What's the point?
If SMU and Indiana were in the SEC, then they would not be in the playoffs.
Well, Clemson needed that game to get in for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean, though? Like if SMU and Indiana were in the SEC, they would not be in the playoffs. And that's coming from me. I already know that. If Indiana had Alabama's schedule, they would not be 11-1 right now. There's no way they'd be 11-1. What would they be? 8-4, 7-5? It's like I've said, though. You've heard me say this before, Sean. Georgia is 6 points away from being 8-5.
Yeah.
They had a hard schedule, but that's the thing. Like, so you're trying to tell me, like, Indiana, if they have Georgia's schedule or they have Bama's schedule, they're 7-5 or 8-4. Bama went 9-3 with their schedule, and Georgia is 6 points away from being 8-5. So how much better are they? Are they that much better? Yeah, they're better, but they really haven't looked all that much better, have they? Not really.
No. I'll be interested. I was on. I went off on Sunday or Saturday. One of these times I was on with Austin and Jackson. I went off on the playoff committee. I could spend an hour talking about how disgusted I am with everything this was set up. The one thing you can't blame, you can't pin on them this year though, is they weren't just going for the better ratings. It would have been very easy to just drop Bama in place of SMU. And that game, the Alabama Penn State game would get significantly better ratings and sell way bigger tickets than Penn State SMU. So I guess that's one thing you can't hold against them. And maybe the only positive thing I had to say about the playoff committee this year. I mean, and the play, yeah. So I like. Have you guys you guys have seen the bracket? I know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Can you believe how much tougher that top half is than the bottom half? Like it's absurd. It's obscene. The best team on the bottom half is going to be playing with a backup quarterback. The top seeded team. Penn State has to basically play 2 group of 5 teams.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's absolutely fair. Like, Penn State, if Penn State loses either of those games, then they fumbled the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Penn State should win both. Like, that would make James Franklin look horrible if he loses to SMU or Boise. It would be terrible.
He can't lose. He can't be losing. And
honestly, he for his own reputation, he needs to make the championship game.
Yes. Like they got the easiest path. I mean, they have the easiest path to get there.
I think Notre Dame, who I also think is overseeded, and no one has been talking about like how bad their resume is.
Yeah, people have said Indiana's strength of schedule is bad, and then you look at Notre Dame's and it's no better. I mean, their strength of schedule is in the same ballpark as Indiana's. It was like 10 spots higher. But do you really think that the 57th strength of schedule is better than the 67th? They're both bad.
And I would maybe a hot take here. I think a loss to Ohio State is a little bit better than a loss to Northern Illinois.
Yeah, it's just a smidge, just a smidge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So.
And a win for Notre Dame over A&M is not that significantly better than a win for Indiana over Michigan. The only difference is that Notre Dame won on the road, but it was also a week 1 game, whereas Indiana beat Michigan in week 12 or whatever. So, I mean, we could do this all day. Both Indiana and Notre Dame play crappy schedules, but they both got in because they went 11-1.
Yep.
That's why they're in the playoff. They went 11-1. Can you leave them out? No, you can't. You can't do that. I mean, if Indiana was in the Big 12 or the ACC and went 11-1 with their bad schedule and their branding, it'd have been close, but they were in the Big 10. That's what got them over the top. And Notre Dame speaks for itself. It's Notre Dame. They're a brand. That's why they got in 11-1 higher, because their schedule was bad. But Indiana was only in because they were in the Big 10. The Big 10 has saved IU because their schedule was terrible. I've never been the one to deny it. I think that their schedule is a little bit better than people think. I mean, it's not like it was that easy. It wasn't. It was not hard either. But I mean, people are saying they played nobody. I don't think they played nobody.
They played a bunch of
a lot of good teams,
a bunch of average teams
like Nebraska, Washington, Michigan. They're mid, but they're not the worst teams on planet Earth either. I mean, people want to prop up Colorado so much, and they got destroyed by Nebraska. Yeah. Like at the beginning of the season, but then by the time Indiana played and Nebraska got a lot worse, and then their last game was that Ohio State game, and then after that they just threw in the towel.
And to the point too, Indiana couldn't have been more impressive than they were in those games, and running that 12-6 here. This is a fast game, man. This game's going to end in under 3 hours. Yeah. Wow. So but like with the Penn State point here, Penn State is known for just doing exactly what you expect of them all the time, right? Like they never punch up, they never overachieve, they never get that big win. Well, they're definitely supposed to get to the semifinals here.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to say, oh, Franklin, now he can win big games. Look, he beat SMU and Boise State. Wow.
It's like you were wrong about him. Notre Dame and Freeman. If they beat Indiana, it's like, oh, Notre Dame finally won a big game. Does that count, though? Like, and again, I'm an Indiana fan. But does that count? Like, if they beat Georgia, then it looks a whole lot better. I will say, though, and I even told Will this last night, a win over Georgia this year is not as impressive as a win over Georgia like 3 years ago. It's impressive, but Georgia is very beatable. They've proven it again and again. The Florida game, the Kentucky game, the Mississippi State game, all these games, the Georgia Tech game, the Texas game just now. I mean, they have been mid so much of this season, but their sheer talent advantage got them over the top in some of these games by a hair. They have not been that good. This is the worst Georgia team on paper, the way they've looked probably since before Kirby. It's not good. They just have enough talent that they're getting by. But, I mean, if they didn't have the sheer talent advantage, we're staring at a 7-5 team.
There we go.
I want to just talk about this one point here with the playoff again about how broken this system is. Not only is it is it just a terrible format, but the committee just made some like head scratching, baffling decisions in how they ranked these teams. And the consequences. The consequences you get this ridiculous looking bracket. Think about this: Penn State would have been in a much more difficult spot had they won the Big Ten championship game.
Yes,
Oregon's got a much tougher path to the title game than Penn State does. I don't know how. I mean, like you can't look at that and say the committee did a good job if that's the case. Penn State's getting rewarded for losing that game.
Well, remember, some people were trying to say that Oregon needed to lose in the Big Ten title game to get the 5th seed. Some people were trying to say that. It's like, I mean, it's really sad when that's a legit argument to be made.
Yep.
I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, it really is. Like, no. This isn't like the NFL where you're 15-0 and you got one game left in the regular season and you want to sit your guys, because you don't want them getting hurt to, the Super Bowl, but then you give up the undefeated season kind of deal. That's sad, but it makes sense. This is stupid. To have a playoff format where you're actually trying to legitimize purposefully losing a game to get a better spot in the thing, that's just sad. That is dumb. And that should not even be a thing. The committee royally screwed up with the format because the conferences are so uneven. It's just stupid. That's why you need to have the seeding be with where the team should actually be. Like they need to be ranked where they should have finished. Like they should not have, Arizona State and Boise State at 3 and 4. They're not the 3rd and 4th best team in any category. They're not even based off talent, but what they've done. They're not that good. They should be toward the bottom of the bracket. I mean, they having them in's fine, but not 3 and 4. Like you could be like, well, you got to reward a conference championship win in the Big 12 and the ACC and the Mountain West is so significantly less of a big deal than a Big 10 championship and SEC championship victory. Why are we rewarding these teams? They do not deserve to be rewarded. They deserve to be in the playoffs for a good season, but they do not deserve to be ranked at the top. That's just dumb.
And they put Penn State up ahead of Ohio State because they made this stupid statement about how you're not going to punish teams for being in the for making it to the conference championship games. These conferences have such disparate schedules within the conference. The reason Penn State got to that game was because they had an easier schedule than Ohio State.
Yeah, they did.
And they lost the game too.
That's win was over Illinois. I mean, you look at Penn State's schedule and then look at Indiana's, it's not even that much more significantly better. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, the only thing Penn State had that Indiana didn't is they had a at West Virginia win in the non-conference. Indiana didn't have a non-conference game like that. Okay. But other than that, like, what did Penn State do? They didn't do anything. I mean, all their wins were over nobodies, just like Indiana. I mean, Illinois is Penn State's best win, and Indiana's best wins over Michigan. And how much difference Illinois and Michigan? They're pretty similar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Penn State did absolutely nothing either, but it was just their brand. And like you said, they were rewarding them for making the game in the Big Ten championship game. And barely losing, even though Oregon completely outmatched them. And the game was definitely a lot closer just because Penn State kept kind of hanging around. But there was never one point in that game where you felt they could win. Never.
No, not much. I mean, they were pushing the rock uphill the entire game. They were behind by like a possession and a half that whole game. So it was,
the only reason that they probably put Penn State over Ohio State is because of the fact that Penn State's 2 losses were to really good teams and they were close, and Ohio State had the Michigan loss. That's bad. I mean, that's really bad. That's it. But Ohio State did have the head-to-head win.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll argue that Bama should have been over Texas in the playoff last year because Bama had the better win. Bama had the better win. They beat Georgia last year, but Texas gets in over Bama because head-to-head. And it's like, wait a minute. Texas beat Bama in week 2 of the season. Like week 2, like Alabama got better last year as the season went along. Milrose sucked in that Texas game. That's not to take away from that win over Texas, but Texas lost to Oklahoma last year. That was significantly a worse team, but then Texas still gets in over Bama, like because of head-to-head. Well, if that's the logic, then Ohio State should have been in over Penn State because of head-to-head. That doesn't make sense. Why sometimes head-to-head matters and sometimes it doesn't? Because I will argue in some cases it shouldn't matter. That would be like ranking Michigan ahead of Ohio State, right? Oh, head-to-head. Michigan's got 5 losses. It's not all created equal. It's not how it works. Head-to-head shouldn't always be the be-all and end-all, but if you're going to make it that way, it seems, then you have to be consistent with it, and they're not. So I don't get it.
No. I mean, it really was. I mean, I was expecting it to be bad, the setup, and I don't know. I hope that I've built up enough credibility that I'm not this massive hot take guy on this, and I'm not. I don't automatically shit on people for no reason. Like I'm not just a hater all the time on this show. I hope I have a little more credibility than this, but I'm going to use that capital, whatever credibility I have, to just absolutely dump on this playoff committee because this is an absolute joke. This is a 1 out of 10 job by the committee. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It was worse than I expected it to be, and I was expecting it to be bad.
Absolutely. And then this comment here from Bama fan makes me laugh too. Go back to 4 so bowl games mean something again. Honestly, if you want bowl games to mean something again, you go back to 2. You have to go back to 2 in the BCS because even with the 4-team playoff, you were already seeing tons of opt-outs. You were already seeing the games not matter as much. So I don't even agree with this comment. Yeah. I understand what Bama fans coming from, but you have to go back to the BCS system for it to ever matter again at all.
I don't think they ever will. It'll ever matter.
It'll never happen. Once you expand things, it never strays.
I don't think anything would do it. I mean, like, I mean, the only way that the only thing that could save it is somehow getting contracts written up that requires players to play.
Yeah, like if you want your full NIL contract, playing the bowl game.
But even then, like a lot of these players are getting ready for the NFL draft. Who cares if they'll for sure pay the $15,000 penalty or whatever it is.
And most people do agree with me as well when I've said this. But even with the draft, I can understand if you're going to be a top 5 or 10 or even first round, second round draft pick of opting out. That's fine. I get that. You don't want to hurt your leg. You don't want to go down to the 6th round. I get all that. That's fine. Opting out for the draft is fair. What I don't like, though, is players opting out for the portal in bowl games. That is garbage right there. Why? Open up the portal season after the bowl games are done.
But no, there's a reason why they have it when they do. Like, obviously, for football's reasons, that makes a lot of sense. The major problem is that these players might not necessarily be able to get into school and to start the next semester on time if you open it up in January.
I agree. I knew I had a feeling that was going to be your response because that's always been the pushback that I've gotten. But most people do agree with me though that would make the bowl games 80 billion times better because of the fact that the bowl games have honestly gotten worse lately because of the transfers versus, my team lost 3 really talented guys to the draft. Well, then you lose 15 players to the portal. What's bigger of a loss? 15 guys to the portal or 3 of them for the draft. I mean, it's
Yeah.
terrible. I mean, once again, open the portal after the bowl games. I know the academic stuff matters, but the problem is that the NCAA, with all this NIL and stuff, has prioritized that over academics, it seems, with all of these booths.
And I'll be honest, too. I think some of these opt-outs, even for the draft, have gotten totally out of control. Like, you have guys that are like 5th, 6th round picks. Oh, I'm opting out, sitting out. Like, well, what? Huh?
You would think you'd want to play in the bowl game to boost your stock. It's like last year when Sam Hartman opted out of the bowl game.
Sure.
It's like, why did he opt out of the bowl game? Like, some people are saying, oh, well, Notre Dame was going to bench him. It's
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Yeah, they really benched him all right for their future career quarterback. That's why they went in the portal again and got Riley Leonard. Yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. It's just a joke. I mean, these bowl games, like I used to bowl season was my favorite. I love bowl season. I would watch every bowl game, and now, honestly, Sean, I don't even watch half of them.
No.
And most of the games I watch are the small ones. I watch the little bowls. Why am I going to watch these big bowls when, oh my gosh, Pitt and Michigan State are playing, and then there's no Kenneth Walker and Kenny Pickett? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? Who cares? And they got some no-name guy on the screen like, oh, here's the future star player for Pitt. Oh my gosh, he just entered the portal. He's gone. So, like, no, yeah, you can't even keep up with all of it. I don't get it.
No,
Sean, what have you got going on this week, man?
I don't have a whole lot. Trying to stay out of the snow as much as I can.
There you go.
Stay inside, drink a lot of hot chocolate. It's like 10 degrees here, so 10 degrees and about 6 inches of snow on the ground. Kind of ugly, but nice Christmas weather. Maybe turn on the Charlie Brown. Chris, I still haven't watched that yet this year, so I might be that might be in my like immediate plans in the next hour or so.
Well, I know our buddy Jeffrey could definitely use some Charlie Brown for sure, man. We're gonna get.
I
him
love
some.
that show. It is so hilarious.
There we go.
I love when Lucy's telling him you got the fear of everything, and he's like, "That's it, that's it."
There you go. That's it.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
And Sean, we'll be seeing you on Sunday night on CFBF Dark.
Right. You guys planning on are you guys going to be back next week or?
Oh yeah. We should be back for the 11th edition of the call-in
We'll
show.
definitely try to keep it rolling if possible.
But the 12th call-in show, we're getting the date figured out because like it's the day after Christmas, so it's like we're getting things figured out.
Okay. Hey, keep DeReal in line, okay? Don't let him act like he's the host of the show, all right?
I can just imagine DeReal right now, his face after you said that.
Some people need a choke leash. Some people need a choke leash. You know what I'm saying? Just come on.
Well, if anybody gets too out of hand, that's what my whistle's for.
I didn't even know you had a whistle on hand, man. Have you ever used it?
Yep. I'm not blowing it loud, but I'll.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I wasn't too loud. You don't want to.
I used it on the fall whistle with Austin, but that's pretty much it.
All right, guys, take care.
You too.
Have a good one, Sean. Stay warm.
Sure.
Stay safe. Make a snow angel for us. And we got our buddy DeReal on the line. After that is Mikey G and Sports Talk with Austin. How you doing tonight, DeReal?
Well, how are you guys doing? I didn't realize I need to be kept in check, but
Those are Sean Garner's words, not ours.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know what I've done to upset him. Maybe just calling his team soft and his head coach soft and his program soft may have something to do with it because they're pathetic and can't beat Michigan, even though they're 20.5-point favorites. Maybe that has something to do with it. What do you guys think?
You know it's going to be a classic when DeReal's calling in for sure, especially when it's close to Christmas. And, tomorrow's the start of the 12 days of Christmas. But in Jeffrey's case, the 12 days Christmas start in 43 minutes.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Christmas season. Hopefully you all have a great Christmas as well. But Alabama should be in the playoffs. The only reason they're not is because of the format, because they are one of the 12 best teams, even by the committee's own standards. They are ranked number 11th in the country. I know everyone just pretends the committee didn't post the final rankings, but they are number 11. I did fact check that. This playoff format's a complete joke, and I just wanted to completely agree with Sean Gardner before he attacked me in a personal matter. And I'm just completely joking about this. I love Sean. He's a great caller and all that stuff. This is all just jokes.
Yeah, it's all jokes.
You know,
like not. I wouldn't even call it shade. I wouldn't even call it shade. It's just all good fun.
Exactly. But he's absolutely right about this playoff format being a complete disgrace and a complete joke. If Alabama was playing Penn State, I would feel so much more fired up about these playoffs. I mean, that game would probably be the primetime game, even surpassing Ohio State, Tennessee. But now what do we have? We got SMU, Penn State. Who cares about SMU? We've got Indiana, Notre Dame. Indiana, small fan base. Who cares about them? Nobody really believes in them. And then we got Clemson, Texas. Clemson, nobody believes in their offense. So this playoff
at least with
format
Indiana, Notre Dame, it's an in-state game, and that helps a lot. And Indiana, even though they are a really small fan base, they're now energized. Like SMU, I mean, Indiana's fan base is more tight-knit than SMU's. Like SMU's is in Dallas, where there's like 8 billion other teams to watch. Like Indiana, it's still a college, in a college town, college school that, yeah, they're all basketball fans, but they've been converted over to football, even if it's just for this year. But I think if they continue to be good in the future, if that's possible, then they'll continue to support. But yeah, I think Indiana, Notre Dame is much better of a game than SMU, Penn State. But I still get your point, Darrell, that yeah, Indiana nowhere near anything of Bama at all, and I get that absolutely. But
well, I'm trying to figure out how this playoff is a success in any definition of the word success. If this was designed to create the most amount of money possible, I believe it's a failure, because you're leaving out teams like Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, who have bigger fan bases than Indiana and SMU. If this was more competitive games, I would say it's a failure, because SMU, Indiana, and Clemson have proven over the course of the season, at least in my opinion, that they're not as competitive as Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. And you can even make the argument Boise State and Arizona State aren't as competitive as those three teams. So I'm trying to figure out where the success in this playoff is. Like, I just see this as a complete and abject failure. Like, I'm not sure if you all saw the Texas-Georgia game. Part 2 got 16 million viewers. I think we might have a scenario this year where only Tennessee, Ohio State has more viewership in the first round than that game.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true.
And if this whole thing is about, hey, let's get the money, we all need the money and all that stuff, can we at least follow through on that one promise to where people are making money, if that's what it's all about?
Well, I mean, you take like Ralph Wolf says South Carolina and Ole Miss aren't money makers. I mean, they make more money than SMU, but I mean, like if it just say Ole Miss was playing Notre Dame, how much more money or views and money would that game make than Indiana Notre Dame? I mean, it may be a little bit more, but I don't think it's that significant.
Well, I think it's more competitive game, and I think
it might be a more competitive game, but I'm just saying, would the views be that much better? Like the money would be better. I don't think it would be that much better.
My point is, it would draw in more of. If we're trying to maximize the amount of viewers, then we might as well get all the juice worth the squeeze. And because having an objective championship, I understand probably will never happen again in this sport. Also, with Ralph's comments, something else I liked about Ralph's comments is he actually believes that SMU can compete against Alabama. The only silver lining I have with these playoffs is we're going to get clarity. And I love clarity, because I'm rooting for Texas to blow the doors off Clemson and Arizona State. I want these games to be so ugly, so unwatchable, that this forces a change. Because I'm worried. What if somehow SMU beats Penn State? And then people are like, we got to expand it to 28 teams in the playoff. Because, we need South Alabama, Colorado State to have a chance.
The problem is that there's always a chance of an upset. Because, I mean, I get your point. Like, that's why people say the 9 out of 10 times thing. Oh, well, this team, Alabama would beat Oklahoma 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times or whatever. Because Alabama is way better than Oklahoma, but that day in that particular game, Alabama just decided to crap the bed. Well, Penn State could do that. Penn State could just crap the bed. Notre Dame could crap the bed. You know, I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, your point is absolutely valid, DeReal, for sure. I agree with you. But if one of those games so happens to be an upset, that doesn't make your point wrong. I mean, that just means that SMU upset Penn State. That's why it's called an upset. It's not supposed to happen, but it could happen. I don't think that should change it where, now the no more expansion regardless. Texas and Penn State and Notre Dame can just completely destroy Clemson, Indiana, and SMU. And that doesn't mean that we should not expand the playoff instead of expanding it. We don't need to expand it anyway, no matter what happens. I don't think those teams upsetting those teams should justify an expansion or any of that. The committee, and they're going to do what they're going to do. If they want to expand, it's just because they want to make even more money. But I think in the process, they might make even less, because then that's going to make all these more games is just going to be even less important to have the 24th best team in college football in the playoff when they don't deserve it at all. But to your views point, I just think Indiana Notre Dame will be a great views game. I don't think SMU Penn State necessarily will. Clemson and Texas probably will because of the brands, and Clemson's still a brand. But the thing is, I think out of all those games, there is a shot of an upset. I think SMU could upset. I think Indiana might be able to upset, but that doesn't mean those teams are better. Oklahoma's not better than Bama. They still won that game. Your point is correct, but if people take it that way, if there is an upset, then that's just bad, because that shouldn't change their opinion on that.
Well, Jeffrey, I have a lot less faith in the average person than I think you do, because I think that's what's going to run with. Boise State back in 2000, what was it, 7, 8, 9, when they did the Statue of Liberty play to beat Oklahoma?
The 2007 Fiesta Bowl and the 2006 season.
Everybody goes to that. See, Boise State can compete against the big boys now because they did it back 15 years ago.
Okay, so App State beat Michigan like almost 20 years ago, and App State beat A&M a couple years ago. Does that mean App State can consistently compete with those teams? No, it doesn't.
Unironically, I believe people use that as an argument. I've seen people use that as an argument.
I mean, just because they won every now and then doesn't mean that they can do it on a consistent basis. That's dumb. That's absolutely dumb.
I 100% agree. And here's another comment from Ralph. And I like Ralph. He's a smart guy. I just disagree with the sentiment. There will be upset. Kind of has to be with this many games. There's only
one of them is going to be an upset, probably. One of them. I'd be shocked if there isn't at least one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this isn't like March Madness where we've got 32 games.
Like out of those 32 games, when you have the 1 through 4 seeds playing the 12 through 16, most of those Cinderella teams get blown off the court, but there's always out of those, 12 to 16 games or whatever between those teams, you get 2 or 3 of them. You get a couple of them every year, that upset.
Right, but we don't have that many games. We've only got 4 games. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the favorites won. The only game I see possibly as an upset is the Tennessee-Ohio State game, and that's just because Ohio State, they're kind of in a weird place with their program right now. But I see all the other games just being complete and
Tennessee,
blowout.
Ohio State, Tennessee winning's the most likeliest, followed by Notre Dame, Indiana, in my opinion. And then I think that, honestly, I almost would go with SMU over Penn State, more likely than Clemson and Texas. I don't know, man. Clemson just doesn't give me confidence at all, but we'll see.
Right. But to me, if we had Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina on the high end, they've proven they can beat these teams because Alabama's beaten Georgia. South Carolina has proven they can go toe-to-toe with these elite teams. Ole Miss has done the same thing by beating Georgia. So why are we just having teams that are just beating up on cupcakes and 8-4, 7-5 teams?
Mm-hmm.
I want teams that can win the whole thing. I don't want teams that are quote-unquote deserving and feel like they've earned it just because of their record. I don't think that's a good motto going forward.
No.
And I'm hoping that at a minimum, the rankings are how the playoff is seeded. So your 1 is the 1, the 2 is the 2, the 3 is the 3, the 4 is the 4. I hate the auto bids. Do you agree we should at least get rid of the auto bids?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
It's bad. I mean, the funny thing about it is if you're going off the seeding, like you said about the like how that's out of order because of the Boise State and Arizona State getting ranked higher. Indiana would be ranked 7th.
Yeah.
Right, and I think they would face Boise State in the first round. And that would be a nice game. That would be a fun game.
Yeah.
But it also would reward Oregon because Oregon would play the winner of Indiana and Boise State, who's a lot easier than playing Ohio State or Tennessee.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, honestly, you know, I don't know. There's really no perfect solution, but I mean, the most perfect solution would just have the teams be ranked where they finished in the rankings. It doesn't make any sense to have, you know, like, Clemson and Boise State and Arizona State winning their conference. So, the highest, you know, ranked ones of the conference champions get seeded higher. And then, I mean, Clemson, it's hilarious seeing Clemson in the ACC finish in the last spot, the 12th spot, whereas you have Boise State and Arizona State at, you know, 3 and 4. I think that's funny. That's hilarious. I think it's hilarious.
It's sad. You either laugh or cry about it, so I'm going to choose to laugh. That's how I view that.
Yeah, I'm laughing at how sad it is. It's a so sad it's funny kind of thing to me.
We're going to lose something else very important in these because of the playoffs and just, you know, we got to all bow down to the playoffs. Did you see Greg Sankey say conference championship games or imply conference championship games are on the chopping block and we might have play-in games? Have you seen that?
I think I have seen it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, the thing I hated the most about the expansion was the fact that you lose how important that Michigan-Ohio State game was. You know, that year, in 2023, the last year of the 14 playoff, where the loser of that game did not get in. You know what I'm saying? Like that was just massive. That game was so high stakes. And like, I know this year, like, Michigan wasn't that good, so, you know, like, they had no shot to make the playoff. But it's like you're ruining the significance of individual games. You're making more games matter. That's where, like, Marcus said and other people have said that you're making more games matter, but you're making it where the biggest games don't matter as much. You know, like Georgia, Texas, like that first game where Georgia beat them, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything because they ended up rematching in the SEC title game and, you know, Georgia beats them and like, you know, Georgia, both of them get in the playoffs anyway. But even if Georgia lost and had 3 losses, they still would have gotten in. It's just you're ruining the significance of individual games. You're making more games matter, but you're ruining the significance of individual games.
Yeah.
Right. And my concern is going forward, like, I understand the playoffs are exciting and new and fresh this year, and next year will probably be the same way.
It's gonna get
what
old.
if we're right? What if we're 3, 4, 5 years into this thing and a 4 seed's never won and they're blown out by an average 30 points a game? Like, what if the last team has never won a game and gets completely blown out? I think this has a very quick House of Cards feel to it, and I'm very concerned about that, especially for the weaker teams, the G5, the 11 seed, and the Big 12 champion. Is that a concern you all have?
Give it another couple years, then we'll wait and see.
I mean, it probably is going to be the case. I mean, the only way it would change is if, you know, you have, you know, with NIL and the portal, just it levels the playing field even further. But I don't see that happening. Like right now, you're seeing it kind of be leveled a little bit, which is why you're seeing some of these smaller teams win more consistently. But then once, like, it just continues to kick the can down the road, the bigger schools are still going to find a way to regain an advantage. It's just going to make it where, you know, the 10th and 12th best team, especially, again, with the way the system is set up, where you're going to have blowouts. Yes, you're going to have a lot of blowouts, probably.
Right, and that's what I'm ultimately concerned about. And I just feel like we're having artificial parity, and we're just hoping that the system works, and we're hoping Alabama doesn't win it. We're hoping Georgia doesn't win it. We hope the SEC doesn't win it. We want somebody new, but we're not changing the underlying structure of why they're winning it. We're just putting more roadblocks in their way, and we're just hoping, okay, SMU, please beat them. Okay, Notre Dame, please beat them. Instead of changing, hey, maybe having a salary cap, maybe having a scholarship
if
limit.
You had a salary cap, then the SEC would not even have an advantage. That's the funny thing. I mean, you would have no advantage outside of an established fan base and history. You wouldn't have any advantage because if every team was able to give the exact same amount of money to all these players, then it would basically be pretty much even. Like why wouldn't you want to go like a player? Why would you consider Auburn right now if there's a salary cap across the whole board and you have a coach like Cignetti at Indiana where they're doing really well right now on paper, and then Auburn's bad, right? Even though they still bring in tons of talent. If it's completely even across the board with NIL and the amount of money that a player can make, that player 90 out of 100 is probably going to go to IU then instead of Auburn. But because that player makes more at Auburn than Indiana, that's why Auburn still gets really good players despite the fact that they haven't won jack in years. That's the thing. So then the SEC would be reduced like every other conference to where maybe like 3 or 4 teams are solid and then the rest of them would just kind of blow. But the SEC has that advantage because they have money. And that's why people have talked about LSU and Alabama and A&M and all these teams for years having so much money in the program, and they put so much in their athletics, more than their academics, because that's why like the Big Ten, a lot of those universities have more money than the SEC ones do. They have more money. It's just they put more of their money to academics than they do athletics. Whereas the SEC puts all of it basically into athletics, and that's why they're able to get players. That's why they are able to win on a consistent basis. Because 90 out of 100, the SEC would not be better if they didn't have that money advantage, or the fact that they put their money into their programs more so. Otherwise, it would be a lot more even, but the salary cap's never going to happen. So the SEC is always going to have an advantage.
Well, what you're describing, Jeffrey, and this is what I've explained to Mark, is the SEC has will. And will get you a lot of things that you can do. And why isn't Stanford great at everything? Because they just don't care enough to be great at everything. Why is the Big 12 not great at anything? Because they're the Big 12 and they just don't have the care and passion like the SEC. That's an intangible that no matter how similar you make the sport, the SEC will always have the advantage. But I'm just trying to reduce the other advantages. That way we could have other teams pop up every once in a while to win the whole thing. Kind of like in the NFL, you get these random, like you remember the Browns making the playoffs that one year and winning a playoff game? We will never have a team like that, I believe, in college football.
Here we go.
Even Indiana and SMU this year. I mean, I don't believe they've got any chance. I mean, it's nice they're in. It's a cool story, but I'm just hated for your fan base, Jeffrey, because I feel like if they lose by 35, 40 points, people are just going to say, well, fraud, completely write them off, fake season, just completely tarnish them when that shouldn't be the case. They should be praised. And I think this playoff structure is actually going to hurt the lesser teams in the long run. But anyway, guys, thank you all for having me on. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you all. So I'll see you all next time.
Absolutely appreciate it, Darrell. Have a good night.
Hopefully I was kept in line.
Oh, you did good, man.
And we've got
with you.
Here we go. And we've got Mikey G on the line. How you doing tonight, good buddy? Sorry for the long wait.
Oh, no worries. I enjoyed listening in. A lot of good points made. I'm over Bama not getting in because really we blew it at OU. So be it. I've accepted defeat on that. But I do have a lot of questions about the playoff. Like, for example, I'll point this out. Tennessee Volunteers. I'm not a Tennessee fan at all. But Tennessee has 2 losses. They lost at Georgia. Georgia is 52-1 against teams not named Bama, by the way. So everybody loses to Georgia except Bama. So they lost at Georgia, and then Tennessee had a 4-point loss to bowl-bound Arkansas. Arkansas 6-6. So Arkansas doesn't totally suck. So they have a 4-point loss to Arkansas, but yet they have to go to the Ohio State Posers and play in Ohio State. The number 3 SEC team with them 2 losses, one being at Georgia, the SEC champs, has to travel to Ohio State. Please. And the Ohio State has a loss against Michigan. And Michigan's not necessarily been, they're not 11, they're 7-win team, I think. So why in the world does the number 3 SEC team get an away game and the number 4 Big Ten team gets the home field advantage? That is straight up and anti SEC bias to me. And I am not a Tennessee fan, by the way. I'm an outsider looking in. Another thing too, this award manual, this leader of the committee, he is the athletic director of the Michigan Wolverines and has been since 2016 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what that tells me? That guy was there during the Connor Stallion days. Now, I know Connor Stallion's been swept under the rug, but yes, Michigan did cheat. They did cheat. Video doesn't lie. So this Ward Manuel, in my opinion, turned a blind eye to all this Connor Stallion stuff, and now he's running the committee. This guy is corrupt. But anyway, that's just some of the questions I have about the. Well, Ohio State lost to a 7. So you can say this team lost to that team. Well, Tennessee is number 3 in the SEC, having to go play at the number 4 Ohio State posers that loses every big game they play. So that's neither here nor there. But why is the number 3 SEC going to play at the number 4? Another thing, too, let me ask you a question, everybody listen right now. If your life depended on it, if you absolutely had to make a decision, and if Alabama played SMU in a neutral field tomorrow, who would you take? If your life depended on it, would you take Alabama versus SMU, or would you take Alabama versus Indiana? Because really, I think 90% of the people in the sports world would probably go and stick with the safe bet on Alabama on that one, and so would I. So that's just some of the questions I have. And these Big Ten
Alabama.
teams dominating the top of these playoffs, in my opinion. For instance, take the bottom 14 teams. They keep saying the bottom half of the Big Ten. Cancel that. The bottom 14 teams, the other 14 teams in the Big Ten have a combined losing record. You take the 4 teams in the Big Ten right now, their hardest out of conference game is West Virginia. I mean, it's just such an unlevel playing field between, I think, the weak ass Big Ten. My opinion, Indiana might be a football powerhouse all of a sudden. I don't know. Apparently they are. But in my opinion, the Big Ten is weak as crap. And there's no way that SMU, Indiana, Boise State, Arizona State, Penn State, all them. Oh, by the way, the SEC already has Ohio State. It's Missouri. Missouri beat Ohio State last year in the bowl game, by the way. And Ole Miss beat Penn State. P.S. Ohio State is 2-14 versus the SEC in bowls. Ohio State ain't done crap. So why are they hosting why are they blade up to become a great team every year? We need to get out of their butt because Ohio State sucks. They ain't done crap. So that is so while they get to host this Tennessee game, I will never
Well, Ryan Day, to your point, Ryan Day's basically John Cooper 2.0. He can win every game except Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, they can't even buy themselves a team. They bought Caleb Downs. And they can't even buy. Anyway, I can go off on the level of poserism that Ohio State is. Just like the new Big Ten members, USC and UCLA, Ohio State's not played them. Yeah, LSU played both them teams. Ohio State avoided both them teams. A complete joke. What I call the Big Ten is this award manual. This leader of the Big Ten, the committee, is a complete crook. He turned a blind eye that Connor Stallions up a pie lot. He's a cheater, man. But anyway, I could probably go all day about the Big Ten, but I just don't understand some things about Bama's out. But in my opinion, if all them teams, SMU, Indiana, if they played in the SEC, they would have 3 and 4 losses, just like Alabama does, just like all these other SEC teams. And by the way, Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina all have 3 losses, all 3 SEC losses, no out of conference losses. So I can rant on that forever about the unplayable limit. In my opinion, of 50 years of college football observation, who's been dominating college football? Alabama, Georgia. When it wasn't them two, you know who it was? LSU. You know who LSU beat? Ohio State posers. Since the first year of the playoffs, Ohio State hasn't done crap. So why everybody's always up their butt? I will never ever figure it out. I never know the biggest posers in football. But anyway, I go on that. Bama's out, but I really believe that if SMU played in the SEC, they'd get annihilated. Indiana, apparently, all of a sudden, football powerhouse, they get annihilated in the SEC. I really think that. I don't think at all they can handle the physicality. That's just my personal opinion on that, guys.
So
yeah, I will say about Tennessee real quick, Jack. Sorry about that. I will say about Tennessee that if the situation where the rankings of the teams were different, you didn't have Boise State and Arizona State getting the byes, and Tennessee would have had a home game. But because of the seeding where everybody moved down 2 spots, that's why Tennessee got a road game. Because literally they were 1 spot away from getting a home game with the way the current format is. But instead, if you don't have Boise State and Arizona State getting those auto bids and you just have the top 4 ranked teams get the byes, if that's the way they want to do it, then you would have Tennessee playing a home game because they were ranked high enough. But they all fell 2 spots because Arizona State and Boise State, 2 teams that were ranked below Tennessee, surpassed them in the seeding order by being 3 and 4. So, yeah, Tennessee should have gotten a home game, but the way all that worked out, that's why they ended up getting a road game, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think Tennessee deserved a home game. I mean, that's just, but I know it's unfortunate the way it played out.
Mm-hmm.
But from this point, honestly, I just hope either Tennessee or Georgia, and I'm not a Tennessee or Georgia fan at all, and not Texas. I hope Tennessee, Georgia goes on to win it because I will LOL at every Big Ten team I ever come out. I LOL at them, but I hope one of them 2 teams, which is a good chance they will. But the Michigan game coming with Alabama. I think Michigan's getting a lot of opt-outs, and I think Bama's getting a lot of opt-ins. And Bama's a 9-win team. So I think Bama's favored by 2 touchdowns, rightfully so. But with that being said, though, if you look at all the Michigan-Alabama games, Michigan plays Bama pretty tough. Heck, they beat us last year, and I don't think they cheated in that game. I think it was after the cheating scandal. Before that, we played them in a bowl game about 4 or 5 years ago, and Michigan plays. But for some reason, Michigan does play us pretty tough. But with that being said, we're a better team, or I don't know what we are or not, to be honest with you. But we're a better team, I think. Michigan always plays us tough, but I do think we're going to win out. Well, I think we're going to get 10 wins. So if DeBoer gets that final 10th win, a 10-3 season is actually what I predicted. So I sure hope it happens, and it makes my prediction at 10-3. But I thought we'd make the playoffs. We probably should have, but Big Ten dominates college football now all of a sudden for some reason. But with that, one more thing, to let y'all guys go. Milroe. A lot of talk about Milroe lately. A lot of Milroe talking. People all over the place on Milroe. I'll be honest with you, man. We all love Milroe. Milroe 4th and 31, beating Georgia twice. You can't argue with that. I mean, Milroe's been good, but I think it's time for Milroe to move on. He's not a DeBoer.
Mike, before you go, while you're in the waiting room, was that a guitar that you were setting up, or no?
Yes, I was rocking out, man. While I was waiting, I was listening to y'all and playing some rock and roll. Yes, I was.
Would it be okay if we could hear you play something on your guitar?
Okay, we'll try to get it set up.
You rock out, man.
All right,
that's sweet.
As well,
I thought.
I don't want to rock out the neighbors, but let me check it out here. All right.
Yeah, we get some music to get Milroe pumped up for the bowl game.
There we go.
Yes. I will rock something out for y'all 1 second. While you rock out, y'all, we've got it.
There we go. The one Alabama call-in show where you can hear some top-notch music.
All right, ready?
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
That's winging it, guys. I can do a lot better than that. I ain't got my pick and I ain't got a strap, so I ain't got. You got to have a metronome, and you got to rock it out. But yeah, I can rock a little bit, but
There we go.
Hey, you did great, Mike G. That's awesome.
thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh,
You can't rock.
man.
It's in a.
You're welcome to rock out anytime you call in, man. No worries, man.
Thank you,
That
fellas.
was awesome.
Well, hey, I enjoy listening to y'all show, man. And roll Tide. Let's beat
Roll
Michigan.
Tide.
And, y'all keep up the good YouTube channel, guys. Y'all take
I
care.
appreciate it, Mike.
You too,
Have a
man.
good night. Keep rocking.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Bye.
Rocking and rolling. And we got our friend from Rutgers at the Voice of College Football, Adam Lamparello, joining
Hey, Adam.
us.
How's it going tonight?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking my call. I just want to talk about two things real quickly. One is about the college football playoff. The other one is about Milroe. So I want to ask you guys, when you look at the playoff field, how many of these teams do you think has a realistic chance of winning the national championship? If you had to
Oregon.
estimate.
3.
Oregon, Georgia, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Three.
yeah. So then my question is, why in God's name do we have a 12-team college football playoff?
We
Because I
shouldn't
think
have a 12-team playoff. It's dumb.
Yeah,
It's
I
absolutely
think it's dumb. And I would take it one step further. I would say the College Football Playoff Committee should not have any specific numbered playoff system each year. I think what the committee should say is we're going to pick the teams that have a realistic chance of winning the national title every year. 1 year that might be 4. 1 year that might be 6. 1 year that might be 7. 1 year it might be 2. So that you can actually account for the nuances in a particular season rather than this over-inclusive playoff where you have like Boise State getting a bye for some reason, and you're admitting that most of the teams don't have a shot at the title. So the playoff system it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense just to have a 4-team playoff either, because there might be a 5th team like Florida State last year that should be in. So why not give the committee flexibility to choose the number of teams each year that should be in the playoff?
The only problem with that, Adam, because that in theory sounds like a good idea, but the only reason why that would be crazy is because of the fact that if you tried to do that, then everybody would be justifying, it should have been 6 teams this year, it should have been 8, it should have been 4, like the difference in numbers. There would be no way to even get it right every single year because you could always justify another team. You could always like this season, we're talking about Indiana, SMU, all these teams shouldn't be in because they're not going to have a shot to win it all. But like Bama could maybe, or Ole Miss or whatever. It's just how would you even be able to quantify it? Like when you look at a given season, like how, for example, for you, since going with what you just said, how many teams do you think can win it all this year?
This year, off the top of my head, I would say Oregon, Texas, Georgia. I would put Ohio State in there.
Ohio State.
I'm not sure if I'm missing. I would put around 4 or 5. And what you said about like the disagreement that would entail, my response to that would be we already have such a tremendous amount of division and disagreement. But I think if I asked everybody in the chat, tell me who you think what teams have a realistic chance of winning the national title, I bet we'd get to a much closer consensus and much less controversy. Because I don't think you're going to see people saying Boise State, Arizona State, SMU. I think you're going to see a similar consensus. And why not allow the committee to account for differences in seasons where there's such a clear disparity between, say, the top 4 teams, the top 5 teams? Why is that not workable? Because it also gives more teams every year. Every team still has the opportunity to get in that playoff because we don't know how many they're going to choose. So it ends this dispute of who should be 4, who should be 5, who should be 12, who should be 13. Why not give them the flexibility to be inclusive when they should be and exclusive when they should be?
I mean, like I said, that makes sense to an extent. It does, but I don't think there's any way to even be able to come close to quantifying it. Having a 12-team playoff is dumb. I think 8, if you would have expanded to 8, would have made more sense, but I would have just left it at 4. Because, I mean, to your point, I mean, most seasons we would just say that 4 to 6 teams would have a legit shot in the first place anyway. But the problem is, too, is that in years past, we had teams sneak into a 14 playoff that didn't deserve it or didn't have a shot to win. TCU, Cincinnati, those teams still got in. I mean, think about it. If Indiana, you swap out Ohio State with another Big Ten team like Illinois or whoever else they didn't play. They didn't play Wisconsin. And Indiana's undefeated, and they go 12-0. Then Indiana is up there at 4-5. You know what I'm saying? So they would be in that conversation in your system. But are they a team that could win it all? No, probably not. No chance, right? So that's the problem, because even in a 14 playoff, we still had teams get in that had no chance to win.
Right.
That's why that doesn't work either.
Do you remember the dispute about Florida State and Alabama and then TCU and Alabama? Under my system, they both get in. So there's no controversy.
That's true. I get that. But how would the committee quantify that? How would they be able to come to an agreement when they're all human beings and we all have errors? So how would they be able to quantify it?
I mean, I guess that argument applies to any system you have, including the current one. So
it's the same thing with rankings. All rankings are flawed. Like even like Mark Rogers' top 25 that actually makes sense. He said himself, like, his rankings make way more sense than the AP because he does a lot more reasoning and justification for why teams are ranked in his ranking. But even he has said his rankings are flawed because they all are. They're all subjective or objective, whatever word. I've interchanged those words, and Mark has told me that it's the other word.
Yeah, they're also
whatever word it is. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I think it proves too much. If it's all subjective, we still have an obligation to try to get the best imperfect system, and I'm not sure which one that is. Just a thought. The second thing I want to say is I think that Indiana Notre Dame is going to be extremely close, and I think that people aren't giving enough credit to Indiana. I think it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be down to the wire. I mean, I haven't made my official prediction, but I mean, I'm most likely next week will probably go with the Irish to win. But I think it's going to be a very close game. I mean, Indiana has had an excellent season, and even though they dominated, against really bad teams, I mean, they showcased, based on the way that they have played, that they are one of the better teams in the country. And because they went 11-1 and there were so many upsets this year, they had to be in. Because, I mean, you think about it. Indiana right now is in the 10 seed spot, right? Yeah, they're in the 10 seed spot, facing 7 seed Notre Dame. Now, they were ranked higher in the rankings, but put lower because of the, champions, from the Big 12 and the Mountain West. But the thing is, like, if you have Alabama with 1 or 2 losses this year, or you have Ole Miss not having a loss to Kentucky and not having a loss to Florida, and they have 1 loss. If all those teams didn't screw up or Miami didn't choke down the stretch, those teams are ranked ahead of Indiana, and Indiana still doesn't get in the field. IU got in the field because those teams choked, because those teams lost games. That's why people just kept saying Indiana doesn't deserve to be in. I'm not saying whether they deserve to be in or not. I'm saying that based on what all the other teams did, you had to put them in. SMU doesn't even have a shot in the dark. People talk about that almost everything went right for Alabama to still get in, except SMU doing what they did to squeak in. But if any of those other teams, if Miami doesn't choke, if Ole Miss doesn't choke, SMU's not in. They're not in. Like, those teams, Indiana, SMU, and even Bama almost squeaking in there still happened because those teams lost. All those teams lost games that they shouldn't have lost this season.
All right, you make a really – I think that's a good point. Last thing I'm going to say, and this really, has been bothering me, is about Jalen Milroe. I want Jalen Milroe to leave. This is a quarterback who cannot read a defense, who keeps the ball 95% of the time when he should hand it to Justice Haynes or Jam Miller, who is a selfish player, who does not go through progressions, who is a good vertical runner but often runs horizontally instead of hitting the hole like he should, who handicaps offensive coordinators from Tommy Rees and Nick Sheridan. He is a detriment to the University of Alabama, and if he comes back, Simpson's going to transfer, and as Dylan's already in the portal, and it will have repercussions for DeBoer's future because he cannot run DeBoer's offense. And I am sick and tired of Lank and all of this love for Jalen Milroe. Yes, he's a good man. Yes, he's charismatic, and he's a great athlete. He is a terrible quarterback, and he has handicapped Alabama, as we saw in the Michigan game last year, the OU game this year, okay, and Tennessee. 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Worse passing stats this year than last year. I'm done with Milroe and Alabama football, and DeBoer's job is in trouble if they stay with him. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, because a lot of people are saying that, Milroe should come back. I mean, I was thinking that kind of when it was brought up earlier that if he comes back, Alabama's system is not going to change. So he's not going to do probably any better than he's already done this season under DeBoer. So, I mean, yeah, that's true. I just don't think he should transfer either. I don't know if you agree, Adam. I don't think he should transfer. I mean, he should just go to the draft. I mean, you can almost argue based off this season that it might have been better for him to leave last year. Because I don't know if his draft stock's necessarily been hurt all that much, but I mean, I can't remember where he was at the end of last year, but I mean, it probably wasn't the fourth round. I mean, this was a weaker draft class. And after that Georgia game, Milroe was up there near the first round. But since that game, his draft stock has really dropped. But it's not going to grow by coming back. If he comes back to Bama, it's not going to get any better. And if he goes to another team and it doesn't work out, then any draft stock he had left is done. So it would be better if he came back to Bama than to go somewhere else, because I don't think the Hurts to Oklahoma situation would work. I don't think there's a situation that would fit for him like that. In this situation, but it probably would be better for him to go pro than to come back to Bama. But I would not transfer if I was him.
Yeah, and if he comes back to Bama, I'll say this: not only are the quarterbacks going to transfer, but in addition to Kobe, Prentice, and Kendrick Law, you're going to see more wideouts transfer because they don't get the ball. And DeBoer said that in a letter to the wide receivers last week, thanking them for their unselfish play. It's time to stop designing offensive schemes around Milroe. It's time for him to go. Guys, I don't want to take any more time. I'm sure you have other callers. So thanks for listening. Good show as always. And
check out Adam Lamparello on Rutgers at the Voice of College Football, and give him a follow on SC Trojans 97 on X, and give him a follow on Adam Lamparello on Instagram. Tune in for more.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate it, Adam. Have a great night.
Man, I will say, though, I don't think we got to talk a little bit about the 2025 SEC schedule announcement, did we?
No, we haven't talked about it at all. Absolutely. If you want to bring it up for a minute, we can definitely talk about it.
Absolutely. And we can talk a little bit about the transfer portal, who are getting, who are not getting, what's up, what's not up. Go away, ad. we got more important business than ads. Because the non-con schedule, of course, that's going to happen. So we see Georgia. That's likely going to be on ABC, of course. There's the revenge games against Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. And we got Missouri on October 11th. So we're going on the road to South Carolina on the 25th. What part of the SEC schedule surprises you, Jeffrey?
Well, I'll say this. What I think surprising is that it's basically a repeat schedule almost. Every team that they're playing is basically almost the same. It is all the same teams, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's not it's the same.
Yeah,
why don't they have any new teams?
Yeah, there's going to be different opponents for 2026.
Okay, yeah. Well, I haven't really looked at all the rules that much on how the SEC scheduling, is going to go in the Big Ten scheduling. I haven't really looked at that. But, yeah, I was looking up and down. And I'm like, every single one of these teams are the same that they played this year. So that's odd, number one. And number two, with the home and away being set up, it looks like an easier schedule. Honestly, it looks like an easier schedule. At Georgia on the road is the only just that's worse. That's harder. And if Bama doesn't get things together, that's going to be a tough game to win. But when you're looking at South Carolina and at Missouri, we don't know how good those teams are going to be next year, but South Carolina is probably going to get poached in the portal a lot. Missouri, we don't know, like I said. But those are not the worst road games. You'd rather play on those on the road than at Tennessee. At Auburn's tough. At Auburn is always tough, but it doesn't look that bad. Not having Tennessee and LSU both at home this season is significantly better. significantly better. I mean, yeah, Ralph, I agree that those road games are not easy, but none of them are. I mean, you think at Missouri and at South Carolina are harder than at Tennessee and at LSU? I don't think so. I mean, at Missouri is not as hard as at LSU. Just not.
Yeah.
The only difference is that is Florida State. You got Florida State in the non-conference. But how good are they going to be? If Florida State is bad again, then that's going to be fine. But if it's hard, then, you know, if they're better, then that could be interesting. But you got Wisconsin at home too. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not an insanely hard schedule. It's not an insanely hard schedule, but there's still sneaky hard games, and that's always going to be the case. But I mean, if Alabama can get back to being a whole lot better, like being one of the top 5 teams in the country again, they should be able to win almost all of these games. But if they struggle like they did this year, I mean, you could still see a loss at South Carolina. You could still see a loss, you know, at Missouri, in addition to at Georgia. If they can't win that game, maybe they drop a home game, and then they could end up going 8-4 with a schedule that in most years they would have gone 11-1 with. So I feel like a lot of people are saying the schedule is very hard is because Alabama has been diminished in people's eyes because they're not as good right now. It's not the worst schedule.
If we were to go 8-4, we can't blame. We can't just go, oh, that's the committee on that one.
The schedule. You know, like, the schedule is just too hard. It's like, I mean, that's not really an excuse. I mean, Bama needs to win some of these games. I mean, the only just outright insanely hard games at Georgia, and then the rest of them, it's winnable. Absolutely, that's the SEC for you.
Agreed.
That's the SEC for you. I mean, you're just not gonna have it as easy of a schedule as SMU and Indiana in the SEC. That's never gonna happen. Even in the SEC East, even though like Kentucky had a lot of years where with Stoops where they did a whole lot better than they would have done if they were in the West. Being in the East, it was easier, but even then, the East is still a lot harder than what SMU and Indiana are facing right now. I absolutely agree. That's just the nature of being in the league that you are. The SEC is a very tough league. But you just can't go 8-4 and still say Bama should be in the playoffs. You know, I mean, they might have the talent, but, you know, if Bama loses to Georgia and then loses to South Carolina and then LSU and then Florida State and they go 8-4, yeah, absolutely, Ralph. For Bama, it's not the worst. For Mississippi State, it'd be terrible. It's all about who's playing the schedule. If Indiana was playing the schedule, it'd be a bloodbath. But it's Bama.
Oh, yeah.
Bama's not Indiana. I mean, Bama should be able to go 10-2 or 11-1 with the schedule. But if they don't, then, you know, DeBoer's in some trouble. You do have Little Clout 3. Appreciate your being here. Says, how long y'all planning on keeping DeBoer around for? I mean, we have no idea. I mean, if he wins games and takes Bama to the playoffs, you know, almost every year in the future, like if they go to the playoff next year and then they go to the playoff the year after that and maybe win a game or two, he'll stay around. He's not going to go anywhere. But if he misses the playoffs next year and then he misses the playoff again, he could get fired after year 3.
Yeah.
I mean, so it just depends. Like I could see him getting fired even next year if they go like 5-7. They're not going to do that, but you know what I'm saying? Like he could get fired next year if he has a really bad season, but I don't see him having a really bad season.
If we go 5-7,
from year 3 to him staying for years and years to come, if they do well.
If we go 5-7, I'll probably like see if I put on some silly clothing like an Auburn hat and like one of those Tennessee overalls.
Yeah, that would be hilarious, man. I mean, Austin says, how do you feel about Oklahoma rematch? I didn't expect it this season. The thing is, Austin, is that every single game that Alabama is playing next season is a rematch.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I don't know if you noticed that, Austin, but every one of them is a rematch. They're all rematches. That's what I don't understand. Why is the schedule not different at all?
Well, they planned it for 2024, 2025. I think the schedule's going to look different for 2026.
I don't like it. I think that's just malpractice. Right, you should be able to in a room full of people, because you know there's a room full of people putting this stuff together that should be able to be like, okay, let's let Alabama play Tennessee every year. Let's let Alabama play Auburn every year. Let's let Alabama play LSU every year because of their rivals. And even if you want to say Georgia every year for the ratings or whatever, but then the other 4 games rather, let's mix them up. Let's have Alabama play Mississippi State this year. Let's let Alabama play, A&M this year instead of, let's just do the exact same schedule as last year. That's stupid. I don't like that at all. You want different opponents.
Oh, yeah, because, I kind of like getting a shot at getting revenge on Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. That's going to be pretty cool. Like, if we can.
Well, they should get revenge. I mean, if they
Agreed.
lose to Vandy or Oklahoma at home, then DeBoer he's on fire. I mean because I'm not expecting Vandy to be a force next year. I'm not. And Oklahoma, yeah, they could be better, but in Bryant-Denny, I mean, that's the one thing that Alabama really had going for them this year, supposedly with the 3 losses, is that all 3 of them are on the road. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So they didn't lose at home. I mean, you start losing games in Bryant-Denny, then you got a problem.
Agreed.
I mean, definitely not do that.
And frankly, I don't really care to see Missouri and South Carolina on the schedule bunch. I mean, it's really not going to make.
It's just dumb to have the exact same teams you're playing again. I did not know that that's what they were doing. That's hilarious. I mean, you got to mix that up better than that. Why are you in the same conference with other teams if you don't mix it up?
Yeah. But I mean, I wish we could play Ole Miss for 2025, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to complain too much.
Godfather of the SEC says, "Who do you hire if DeBoer gets canned?" Yeah, I don't even want to talk about North Carolina. I don't know what that is. That's just dumb.
Oh, get this!
I've never in my life heard of a team firing a coach that's 73 years old to hire someone older. That's absolutely insane. What were you going to say, Jackson?
Well, I was going to tell you the buyout, because right now it's $10 million before June 1st, 2025. Starting on June 1st, 2025, it's going to be a $1 million buyout for Bill Belichick if he wants to leave for the NFL, which, I mean, he's saying the right thing. It's like, no, I mean, this is my home. It's like, whatever. I mean,
he's 74 years old, man. I mean, realistically, he shouldn't even be coaching more than like a couple years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't think that it was legit. I mean, trust me, I don't have like, people in my ear saying, "Oh, this is going to happen." Sources are telling me this is going to happen. Like, I don't know. I don't have that type of information. I don't have that type of insider information. But I did not think that Belichick was legitimately going to take the job. I thought it was just smoke. When he got the job, I was like, why? I don't get it. And I know some people are saying the defensive coordinator or his son or whatever, defensive coordinator, he's going to get the job. Why would North Carolina want to put themselves in a situation where you're now not only having Belichick as the coach, but if things don't go well, you have to hire the son as coach? Like if that's the stipulate, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I mean, Belichick's old. Nothing against the guy. He's won a ton in the NFL. I know what he did with Brady, but his last few years were bad. Without Brady, he was bad. And I mean, North Carolina, I just don't see him being able to win 9 or 10 games at North Carolina. But I could be wrong.
His career record without Tom Brady, I mean, there's only like 1 or 2 playoff wins. That's it. It's like he got the Browns to the playoffs once in the 90s. And, the Patriots, 2000, had a losing record. 2020 through 2023, disastrous. Yeah, they went to the playoffs 2021, but they didn't win a game. And, that it was just a downfall, so to speak. And it's got to suck to be the Jets, though, because it's like, oh, you got a shot at possibly getting Bill Belichick to come back after you traded his ass to the Patriots for 2000. And then it's like, oh my God, he didn't even go near us because he's going to North Carolina. That's gotta suck for the New York Jets. It's like, you want to talk about Charlie Brown at the pitcher's mound for the NFL? That's the New York Jets in a freaking nutshell. Because like the Bill Parcells era from 97, 99. That didn't work out for him. The fake spike and against the Dolphins in the 90s. Boom. They fell short in that game. Bad luck. And, the Brett Favre era in 08 didn't work out the way they wanted to. Aaron Rodgers, not even no winning record. no win record. I mean, yeah, he's going to be going on the Pat McAfee show, and then he's going on like the Joe Rogan Experience. But I guarantee you, the Bills aren't sitting there thinking about, oh, we got to go on the Joe Rogan Experience. We got to go on Real Time with Bill Maher or Club Random with Bill Maher. We got to go on the Andrew Schultz podcast or Theo Vaughn. They're not sitting there thinking about what kind of podcast they're thinking about. They're thinking about winning the AFC East over and over again. Jets? My God. Oh, man. I'm not gonna rant too much.
Yeah, the Jets are awful, man. You're good.
Absolutely. You're gonna need a new SpongeBob narrator by the time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back to Carolina for brief though. I just think it's a terrible decision. And if I'm wrong and it works out in the limited short time that he's going to be there, then I will retract what I said and say that it worked out, good hire. But I do not think that it was a good hire. I think it is a terrible hire. I do not agree with the hire. I would have been more happy with Jamie Chadwell still, even though I was higher on Chadwell the year before. I mean, I get North Carolina in football is not a big brand. And, they're more basketball. And so you're not going to be able to attract the biggest name. But, and Belichick's a big name. But it's just, to me, it's just a very dumb
They might as well get Greg Popovich to come back to coach it. Yeah, he's coach at Spurs still, I believe. But it's just oh my God. This is one of those try not to laugh challenges because the North Carolina football is basically the retirement home of college football officially. It's we're firing an old man, but we're going younger by a year.
They weren't. They went older by a year. That's what I'm saying. They fired Mac Brown, who's 73, to get Belichick, who's 74. That's never happened in the history of college football. I don't think. I do. If it has, somebody tell me. But I don't think there's ever been a man that was fired at 73 and then they hired somebody older than that. I don't think that happened. And Alabama, or not Alabama, but North Carolina, they weren't the retirement home when they had Fedora. No. Fedora was
or Butch Davis. Old. They weren't a retirement home with Butch Davis. I mean, because I thought they were like a redemption tour team at first, but it's okay.
My bad. Sorry about that. You're right, Jackson. You're right. My bad. He is a year younger. I thought he was 74. He is 72. So you're right. I was wrong on that. But it doesn't matter. Who cares? That's whether you're right or I'm right. You're right. I'm wrong. But who gives a crap? I don't care. They're both old as crap. And he should not be coach. I'm sorry. He should not be coach. The guy, like people are saying, he's dating someone who's like 24. Oh, yeah. Not that should matter. He can date whoever he wants. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the relationship because I don't care. It's just dumb. We know why, but it's dumb. But the thing is it's just a stupid hire. It's just dumb. It doesn't make any freaking sense. I mean, people, it was Rob said I wanted North Carolina to talk to Saban. I mean, I would be more happy about that than Belichick because Saban won games in college football recently. Belichick's never won in college football. And I know that college football is more like the NFL than it's ever been, but it's still just dumb. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, I remember
I wouldn't want Saban either because Saban just needs to be retired. There reaches a point where you just should be retired. It's like seeing people at your local grocery store who are like 80 years old and they're still having to work for insurance. It's sad. It is sad. They should not be working, man. They're old. No. When you are old, and unless you are in decent shape and you want to work because it's something to do. I do know people like that. There are some really old people that want to work because of the fact they don't really have anything else going on. It keeps them going. That's different. But when people have to work and they're forced to work and they're really old, I just hate seeing that because it's just a shame. It's sad. In the case of Belichick, why does he want to do this? Exactly. I mean, does he want to prove that he can win without Brady? Is it because he's
I don't even think it's that.
What's the reason?
I think he just wants to coach for the sake of coaching. That's
I mean,
what
I
I
can
think it is.
respect that to an extent, but I mean,
Yeah.
but to me, you reach a certain point where you got a new prospects, right? You got to have new prospects. I mean, like people, Jimmy Rogers. Adams mentioned Jimmy
He got
Rogers
too
a ton of times.
impatient.
And it's like sometimes when you have younger up and coming coaches, it's their time, it's their turn. Like you're past your prime. We're all gonna be old one day, man. Like me and you, Jackson, 50 years from now, we'll be old, and we'll be past our prime. And like we're still trying to talk sports or do whatever, and we're just old and we suck at it. Like that. That's why some people have trashed Lee Corso for still doing game day when he's really old. And like that's a little bit different because they don't even have him on the show all the time. He's on there every now and then, and you've got McAfee now, and same thing with like Dickie V. Like he's trying to keep doing it, even though you can barely hear him talk, and it's a shame. But he wants to keep doing it because he loves doing it. But commentating a game is different than coaching a football team. There's a lot involved with that. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I'm kind of just not really making a lot of points together that probably make any sense. But the thing is that to me, as a person, when you reach a certain age, you got to realize that you can't do something anymore. And if Belichick proves me wrong, great. But I just don't see it. We'll see.
One thing is for sure, he's not going to be coaching for 5 to 10 years.
And that's another reason why I don't like it, man. It's the same thing with the Jets getting Rodgers. You do all of that to bring in Rodgers for what? He's going to be there a couple years. Like when you look at the Stafford Goff trade, right? Even though in the long run, the Lions are probably going to win the trade, especially if they end up winning a Super Bowl, the Rams still got what they wanted. They won a Super Bowl, and Stafford has been there for years now, and he's still being competitive, and he still is playing well. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at like the Jets, what did they have to gain from getting Rodgers? Nothing. Because he's not going to be there long enough to do anything. He's not even going to be there in a year, probably. He's not even going to be there next year, most likely. So, why? And like I said, Jets fans said it was going to make him a Super Bowl, but I don't know. I don't know. I
told people when I saw that happening that very day, I was like, this is going to be exactly like the Brett Favre era, but a little bit worse.
It was the exact same thing. It's hilarious that both Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers did the exact same thing.
True.
They did the exact same thing.
His dad, I believe, coached at North Carolina, and I was
from
hearing
1953 to 1955. That kind of shows you how old Belichick is when his dad was an assistant for UNC back in the 50s.
They got descended of Dick Clark.
Well, I mean, it's better than Ron Seacrest, right?
Hey, maybe we'll see Jeffrey hosting the $100,000 pyramid like him. Like,
oh my gosh.
That'd be cool. But we're getting way off track here because we got the transfer portal in mind. So we're hearing. Get out of here, ads.
Hey, they got to make their money too, right?
Yeah, I know, but we got to make ours too. So, oh man, I said that on there.
Yeah. You got keep scrolling, man. Keep scrolling.
So we got Kelby Collins. He's going to be on campus for 2 days to visit Alabama, and he's leaving a visit from Texas A&M. And in the past 2 seasons, he tallied 29 tackles, 1.5 sacks, forced a fumble over 2 seasons at Florida. Alabama needs difference makers up front, and he could be one of those players. And Miles McVay. Now, I saw this from our buddy Sonny Verma from Locked On Illini, where he was talking about Miles McVay possibly going to Illinois. And I was like, oh, wow, that could be huge for them, honestly. Sad to see him go, but we wish him a lot. I mean, personally, I'm like, you know what? Go to Georgia Tech. Go to Georgia Tech. Go help out old Brent Key.
That would be good for Georgia Tech. I mean, the portal's just too unhinged for me to even follow. Like when it first started, like the first year of it, and even the second year, like I was really like following it and interested in it. But now it's just it's the wild, wild west, man. I mean, every team's losing 20, 30 players, it seems. It's absolutely impossible to even keep up with it. I don't even begin to try anymore.
Well, we got some good news. Parker Brailsford is not going to be entering the NFL draft. He is coming back for 2025.
That's good.
We got a huge win right there. So we got Jaleel Hurley, Naquil Betrained, Hunter Osborne, Caleb Odom, Jaheim Otis, Kendrick Law, Cubby Prentice, Danny Lewis Jr., Keanu Colt, Miles McVay, all in the portal. And
yeah, I mean, some of those are big losses. A couple of them aren't. But yeah, I mean, like Law and Prentice, guys that contributed. Kind of sad to see him go, but it is what it is. I mean, no matter how good your program is now, you're going to lose guys. It's just the nature of the game now, unfortunately.
Agreed. Well, and Lonergan is going to the portal, but I mean, let's be honest. I don't think he's really going to make a difference for 2020.
No, that guy was never going to play. I mean, if you're never going to play, I mean, honestly, if you're not a 4 or 5 star quarterback, like highly rated 4-star or 5-star guy going to Bama, you're never going to play. It's kind of, I don't know if you remember or not. You remember when Gardner Minshew went to Washington State?
Yeah.
He actually considered Bama, but it's like, guess what? He was not going to play. He had no shot. He'd been a backup. He'd just been a bench guy, and then he would have never gone to the NFL. He goes to Washington State. Mike Leach, rest in peace, had success with him. He goes pro, and he's played some and had a career. Great. But if he goes to Bama to sit, then he's never in the NFL.
I remember watching Gardner Minshew a lot on Washington State, and I've been seeing him a few times on the NFL, and there's been like a few highlights of Chris Berman doing like his shtick on Minshew, where he goes, Minshew giving out a Gesundheit. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, he went from mustache Minshew to now he's just a sneeze joke.
Like that.
Fall for grace, man.
Oh, well, now, I mean, from Chris Berman, not so much, but
absolutely.
But Joe Testor says he's going to be in the playoffs every 5 minutes. That's a downfall.
Oh,
Jesse Palmer's just texting, like, talking about the cutest boy and the cutest girl on The Bachelor. Oh, my God. And the big
anybody that watches The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, I don't know what you're doing. And people that are forced to watch them with other people that don't want to watch them, I feel for you. I don't get it. There's no appeal to that show. No appeal. Nothing.
You can't pay me to watch that horse dung.
I would only watch like Leave It to Beaver for the rest of my life, and that would be the only show I'd watch versus watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
They need to watch Gunsmoke, man. Like, oh my God.
Like any of those shows, Gunsmoke, Leave It to Beaver, The Rifleman,
Howden, man.
Like any of those shows, I'd rather watch one of them forever than I mean, no. That is just garbage.
Oh man. Once again, we let ourselves get off track. Luke has how do you say that name?
I don't even try sometimes, man.
Well, he's visiting Alabama, and he's got 2 seasons under his belt, and he can fill a need for Alabama with several tight ends set to depart. Kevin Concepcion is going to visit.
I think it's Concepcion. I think that's how they do it. Because I mean, Conception. I don't think they they're talking about that. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Man.
Oh my gosh, I gotta read this comment. Ralph Wolf says, "When did you guys realize you were getting old? Maybe 2 years ago. I saw Andre the Giant die 30 years ago. I knew I was old at that moment." Yeah, the only thing I know about Andre the Giant was like he was in the Princess Bride. I remember him in that movie. You remember that movie, Jackson?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, inconceivable. Yeah, I remember him in that movie. But yeah, it is crazy. I mean, I haven't really felt like I'm like massively old yet, but I mean, you could feel it. Like, like the Wii came out in 2006, and it's like, that's a childhood moment, man. The Wii, right? The Wii and DS era, and it's like, dang. Now
PlayStation
little
2.
kids today think that's ancient, man. And I'm like, it's not ancient. Or like the SpongeBob movie, is like 20 years old now, and it's like my one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's like, okay, I feel I see what you're talking about. I'm not ready for it to be full on nostalgia though, like 90s kids, man. Like, oh my gosh, the 90s, man. That was the best. It's like, well, think about the 80s people. They thought that was the best. And then the 2000s, and it's like ever since the 2000s, nobody can say their decade was even close to the best because the last 2 decades have been horrible.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody's saying the 2010s and 2020 so far have been good. I mean, you can have an argument for the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and all that, but maybe the 2000s. But after that, like, name me anything relevant or cool in the last 15 years, Jackson. Like, for me, like, everything went away after the SpongeBob movie, the Wii, the DS, like, stuff like that. It's like, okay, what's come out recently? I mean, Toy Story 4.
PS3, PS4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I mean, like Moana 2's coming out. Like, that's a certified classic. Like, okay.
When in God's name is the Nets Quentin? I'm so ready for the Nets Quentin Tarantino movie. I mean,
I'm just sick of sequels, man. Like every franchise getting all these sequels. Like Despicable Me's got like 4 sequels, and you got Moana getting a sequel. Frozen has sequels. Cars had sequels. Toy Story. The original movies are the best. Okay, Cars was one of my childhood movies. Cars, the original movie, is a classic. Cars 2 is just, I don't even know what that is. It's a fever dream. Cars 3 is all right. But Cars 1, I mean, like the original movies, man, are classics. Incredibles was way better than Incredibles 2. Yep. I mean, like, it goes on and on, man. I mean, Phineas and Ferb was a classic show, 2007. I mean, like, I didn't like a lot of those people shows. I mean, like, I would watch them with some older, like cousins and stuff. But like some of those, like the Drake and Joshes and stuff, and and iCarly's and whatever, Sweet Life, and all those like mid 2000s like Disney and Nick shows. Bro, they weren't bad, but now like the shows today are just cringe. They're terrible.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I could try to get them on a Jack Stone episode to talking about their past show, something like that. Who knows? We'll get there. Or better yet, they could be a guest picker on Alabama with the Voice College Football, being like, see, just kind of hey, who knows? Maybe they could be the next Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah. Adam says, I think Jeffrey was alive in the 80s. He may look 20, but he really is 60. Well, I mean, hey, most of my favorite music and movies is from that time period. So, I mean, I would have probably fit in just fine there. I don't have the hair, though. I don't have the classic legendary long hair. But yeah, I mean, my most of my tastes are definitely more old school. The newer stuff just doesn't do anything for me. I will say though, the Atari 2600 is trash. I will say that the Atari 2600 is garbage. I mean, you're gonna promote that thing and make it like, oh, it's just as good as the arcade. Pac-Man on the Atari is bad, and I have played it. I have played the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man because I have a family member that has the Atari 2600 still, the original. Not one of those little set things that you can buy in the store these days. Like, they have the OG 1977 Atari 2600, and that thing sucks. But the original NES, I've played that too. It's actually the first game console I ever played before the Wii was the NES because someone had it. And that in my family. I love the original Super Mario Brothers, man. I mean, it might be outdated as heck, but it's still fun to play. The NES was so much better than the Atari 2600. I know the Atari 2600 was older, but it was terrible.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is basically going to be the only Alabama show where you hear a little bit about Phineas and Ferb, hearing about some of the old shows here and there, like where we make like references here everywhere. Hey,
Duck Hunt is a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got Adam saying it was the first of his kind. I mean, don't be wrong. I get that. I mean, yes, I played the ColecoVision too. One uncle had the ColecoVision. I mean, that's some rough stuff. I mean, I get the Atari 2600 was first. I would have given it more of a pass though if they didn't prop it up like it was just like the arcade. It's not. It is not just like the arcade. That's what irritating. It was false advertising. You also had the Magnavox Odyssey too. Is that thing that you would put on the old TV set and it would play Pong, back and forth. I mean, of course I wasn't alive when any Atari game, not even the Jaguar. The Atari Jaguar was in the 90s. Oh, I've played Donkey Kong. See, this is the thing. I wasn't alive for this stuff, but I've played them all because I got a lot of people that have the old systems. I've played them all. I've played the Atari 2600. I've played the NES. I've played the ColecoVision, and I have seen a lot of those old movies as well. I mean, they're classics. I mean, you can't tell me like people today, even mine and Jackson's age, that try to justify that newer music and movies are better. No, they're not. Maybe the visual effects and all that. I mean, no, they suck. I mean, they're horrible in comparison to the classics.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
and The Secret Garden, by the way, that book came out in like 1910. I've read the entirety of that thing. I've read a lot of old books too. I mean, I'm not Mr. Old Head. Like I do like some newer things, but I read a lot of old books, and I love playing old video games. So I mean, hey, I'm different.
You know something that's gonna get like Margot Robbie to relax, kick her feet up, chill out. Memberships on Alabama at the Voice College Football, where you can become a Crimson Faithful member for $2.99 a month by getting a loyalty badge next to your name and in the live chat. Custom emojis to use in the comments and live chat, and you get a member shout out. And for $4.99 a month, you can become a Saban disciple, where you will get priority replies to comments and access to monthly hangout. For $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with me, Jeffrey, and Johnny Burtz, and you can give out content requests, any type of content request you want. Anything you want, we will make sure to fulfill that request. But that is if you become a Bear Bryant legend. And for one thing is for sure, we will not let the rain or sleet nor snow stop us. We will not let bad internet. We won't let any difficulties stop us from fulfilling your request when you become a Bear Bryant legend.
Absolutely. You're not going to regret it if you become a member. Definitely appreciate everybody who is subscribed. Would appreciate if you guys become a member as well. Do have to say this as well. Ralph said I literally have a VCR. Yeah, I do have a VCR. And I do have the VHS tapes, man. I got the VHS. I mean, it's fire. I mean, it's not like being able to rewind a section on a VHS. You know what I'm saying? And trying to get it just right before it goes too far. And when you hit play, that little delay before it finally kicks in, right, with the volume. I mean, that's fire. Yeah, Tecmo Bowl was a great game, man. If you ever play, I don't know if you've ever played any of these games, Jackson,
I've seen it, but I don't
Bowl
think
is fire.
Played it. But
yeah, it's a fantastic game, man. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm sure everybody in the chat right now is like thinking I'm full of crap and I've never played these games. Yes, I have. I've played them all. They're insanely good. I mean, they're old and outdated, but they're great.
Yep.
I mean, they have charm that I just feel like a lot of newer games don't have. Yeah, the new games are graphically better, but I just feel like those old games definitely had a lot more charm. Now, I mean, I like newer video games. I got nothing against newer video games. I just don't like newer movies and music. Movies, there's occasionally a new movie that comes out that I like. Music's just crap. There isn't like any music that comes out anymore that's any good. It's all just garbage.
They all sound depressed.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Billie Eilish is like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, someone please just get away from me. I don't want to be around anybody. I want to be alone. It's like back in the 80s, you had Heart singing about I don't want to be alone anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, I don't get, that's the difference between back then and now. It's like I back in the past, it's like you wanted love, you wanted to be together, all that kind of junk, and now it's like get away from me. I hate all of you. Everybody sucks. I just don't. I don't understand it. It's just, I mean, I don't get it. I mean, yeah,
Well-
it's Jeffrey's mad because he couldn't experience Bon Jovi. Well, the
Oh,
thing
God.
is that I mean, Bon Jovi, it's one of those love him or hate him type of bands. Like I like a couple of his songs because they're just their anthems, right, at games. But I mean, I like. I mean, 70s music is fire. I mean, when you're talking about like, I love Boston, man. I mean, Boston's great. Early Styx is really good. Early Van
Oh.
Halen's really good. Led Zeppelin's really good. I like 80s. I mean, the hair metal, version, like Bon Jovi was like really good with like Runaway, and yeah, Living on a Prayer and all that's like insanely good. You Give Love a Bad Name, but then it just kind of like, After that, it's just It's like early Def Leppard's fire, Bringing on the Heartbreak, Photographs good, but then it goes downhill after that. Like 80s, I like the 80s, but it started getting cheese. The cheese started getting in the latter 80s with the metal, the hair metal. I mean, I like early hair metal kinda, but I'm more like classic rock from the 70s because it was more authentic. It wasn't like synthesized to death, right? I don't know. It's just now all the music's just auto-tuned to death. Like most of the people can't even sing. It's all fake.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Family Guy. Yeah, where Peter's using Bojack. Yeah, that was hilarious. That was awesome. But where he's like singing Shaboopy as a touchdown celebration, that was hilarious. He danced with cheerleaders, got the whole field, everybody dancing. Like he got like the people in the bathroom dancing. Like that's too funny.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Family Guy is insane, dude. Like early Family Guy was hilarious. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you had the classic joke with Peter, like, oh, with the knee. And then you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like there's just so many good memes from early Family Guy. I mean, like now the show's absolutely unhinged. I almost think it's getting better though. It's getting a little bit better, but I mean, like early Family Guy was pretty funny, man. I mean, it is good.
I made out with Meg while I was drunk. What the hell? I was like, oh well, you were drunk.
Oh my god, man. I mean, it's crazy, like how an early Family Guy, you had like Meg, right, and then you had like Joe, like the character, like Meg would kind of get trashed a bit, and Joe for being in a wheelchair. But then like later on, it just got to the point where like they just beat him down. Like, shut up, Meg. Shut up, Meg. You're not a part of the family. Shut up, Meg. And then like Joe, it's like, you're in a wheelchair, Joe. You can't do anything. It's like, dude, he was a cop, man. Like he was beating up everybody in the first few seasons. I mean, like what happened? Like why are we abusing these characters? I mean, it's like Squidward. I mean, you had like the one early episode where it's like, firmly grasp it in your hand. Firmly grasp it, and he just puts it right in his hand. But then like after season 4, all the episodes are about like Squidward torture. It's like Squidward was not meant to be tortured all the time. He's supposed to be the real character, like the adult, the one that failed in life, that had dreams and aspirations but never gets anywhere. And now he's working at a fast food place for the rest of his life. I mean, that was Squidward's character. And King of the Hill is probably my favorite adult animated show. Yes, I mean that show is insanely good.
Dang old King of the Hill, man! I tell you what, that dang old King of the Hill on Alabama Voice.
One of my favorite episodes in King of the Hill is the one where Boomhauer, it's from his point of view, and then the other characters, or Hank and Bill and Dale are sounding like Boomhauer, but it's because Boomhauer's seeing it, from his perspective. It's like, what are we doing, right? That is hilarious. Like, no, Hank and Bill and Dale, they talk normal compared to some characters in cartoons. They talk normal, but then you got Boomhauer's crazy voice, but then Boomhauer talking normal in his point of view, but then they're talking like him. It's hilarious.
Well, I think Brian Green's wonder what he walked in on. Well, I mean, we got sidetracked a little bit. We let ourselves get a little sidetracked. But what is your true love? Not just for you, Jeff, but for the chat as well. What is the true love bringing to you on the first day of Christmas? Are they bringing you the disputed national champions, the historical 1990s reset for college football, from Mark Rogers himself, as you will learn what happened in the 90s how the decade changed sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to correctly think through the snares, and to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, outcomes that define the decade of college football. It challenges readers to explore and critically evaluate the decisions that shape the national championship landscape. Unlock the mysteries of college football's most debated decade. Grab your copy now.
Absolutely. Like, you're not going to want to miss Mark Rogers' book if you like 1990s college football and national championship discussion. It's definitely not something you're going to want to miss and put under your Christmas tree for the college football fan in your life.
Well, we can certainly guarantee Margot Robbie will love it. That's for sure. There we go. And if you love top-notch college football content, such as discussion, debates, analysis with no off-season, come on in and join the Voice of College Football Network by giving a follow to the X account, where you could get some of the best top college football coverage. Oh, well, you know. Is that the same? Is that? Oh, no. They don't see us yet. Nah, they'll get there. Well,
they haven't broken the 264th wall yet, Jackson.
No, I don't think I'm going to tonight, but they'll be next week. There's TJ, there's Justin, Ryan Stano. Oh, man, it's just an exciting lineup. Our friend Leanne Herring did the recruiting show, Tim Prangley, Spencer McLaughlin joining Ben and Spaz on the latest edition of Ducks Live. Oh, well, you know, our buddies Jeffrey and Will doing the Notre Dame Indiana call-in show. Ooh. That was a wild ride. I mean, I wonder how wild it was. Let's get our buddy Jeffrey to 1,000 on Indiana Voice College Football. There we go. And, you know, Jeffrey, what have you got going on your adventures this week, man? What have you got going on?
Oh, definitely going to be watching some college football, you know, with the bowl games coming up. And I think ending on Saturday, that's the first bowl game, right on the 14th, if I recall. Definitely be checking that out. And I'll be doing the show with Will next week on Only Talk Sports. Definitely appreciate if you guys haven't already to go check out my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports. Football, basketball, that kind of stuff. You know, definitely with Will, it's going to be a lot of fun talking with him. And also probably going to be doing a crossover again with him next week for the Indiana Notre Dame game, if possible. And also Hoosiers Live on Tuesday nights. Had Mark Rogers on last Tuesday, was a bunch of fun. Don't know if, you know, we'll see if that happens again, but that was a ton of fun. So I got that on the horizon, but just a lot of content coming down the pike on my channel, Only Talk Sports and Indiana at the Voice of College Football. And you can always find me here on Alabama at the Voice of College Football every Thursday nights at 10 o'clock with Jackson, where we discuss Bama football primarily, but it can go from anything from Bon Jovi to Boomhauer. You know, you never know what you're going to get.
Or we'll even discuss a little bit of Tom and Jerry. Who knows?
Tecmo Bowl, anything.
I'm throwing away $1 million, but I'm happy.
So classic, man. So classic.
Love it. Like, don't ever mess with Tom, man. That's just an accident waiting to happen. But you can also check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 110 subs away from the magic number 500. And for more updates on what I'm doing on my personal channel and on the show, The Jacksonian, and on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, check out and see what I have to say on Jackson VOCFB on X and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. And before we go, we would like to let everybody know that our friend Joey Foster is in trouble. You know, he and Vivette have had some health problems. Got so bad that Joey basically had to retire from not just the Voice of College Football, but basically everything as a whole. And check out this GoFundMe link. And, you know, if you can't be able to donate anything to that link, that's okay, man. That is more than okay. Tell a friend about it. Tell a family member. Go on Facebook. Go on Instagram. Go on Twitter /X. Go on Threads, Blue Sky. Anything, literally anything. Go on TikTok. Go on literally anything, and let's help our friend Joey. He has helped so much of us right here at the Voice of College Football, and he has been such a good friend to the YouTube community. Let's help our friend Joey. Let's do everything in our parts to help him out.
Absolutely. I mean, Joey Foster, like you said, has done so much for the Voice of College Football and a ton of other people on YouTube as well. Fantastic guy, and definitely in his time of need, like you said, Jackson, if you're able to, help on the GoFundMe page, that would definitely be appreciated because, again, it's horrible, and hopefully Joe will be able to see him again in the future because, I mean, he's an awesome guy. Definitely, miss seeing him on the Voice of College Football.
Yeah. Anytime we see him on a lot of things, it's usually a treat. He's a cool dude.
Ralph said, wait a minute, Bama is a football team. I'm here for the 80s music, 90s cartoon, and 1950s TV show talk.
Oh, you never
Adam
know
said the show has evolved tonight. Absolutely. Like I said, that's why you got to come back every Thursday nights. You don't know what you're going to get. Keep you guessing.
There we go. And with that being said, we wish y'all a good night. Sleep well, stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Like, comment, subscribe, and click on the notification bell for Alabama at the Voice of College Football so you never miss no video whatsoever. And we will catch you soon. Let's get the 3,000 subs, and we send you the invite to become a YouTube member for the channel. Here it is in the chat. And if you want to become a YouTube member, it is there. The invitation is right here. And we will see you soon. And now here's a message.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. There we go. Let's go, Bama.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.